Hello everyone. I am joined with me, my friends. So we're gonna read good old fics today. I'm joined with friends. Would everyone like to say hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Oi. All right. Anyone who'd like to introduce themselves, or if we could just get started, whichever you prefer. I will find us the YouTube links. I mean, I only stream on Twitch.
Mhm. I'm
Well.
on Blue Sky.
And what's your name on Blue
Excellent.
Sky?
I'm also on. Uh, uh, I'd have to get it. What? It's Korean Sky. Dot
Ooh.
Sky dot social. Or
Yay.
it's just Korean Sky.
Yay. Okay. Let me pull up the and okay, who would like to take first dibs on this one? What are we reading?
For introductions or well,
Oh, if
I'm
you'd
on
like to do both.
Elevate. Oh yes, I'm on Elevate. You can find me with that username on YouTube and Tumblr and Blue Sky. Although I mostly just use the later two. Latter two, I should say. YouTube posts are slow, but I hope they're worth it. Animation takes forever. Haha.
I think they're worth it.
Thank you.
Uploaded on our Tumblr now.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
And I am Honey, Night Honey Bee. You can find me anywhere under that name. They're all mine, probably.
Yay. Night honeybee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well since everyone else did theirs, Stag.
I am choking, apparently.
No.
Oh no.
I am Stag. I go by its pronouns, and I am on Tumblr as the Waking Ophonophore. And that's all you get.
Yeah. You learn
Alright,
more lore as we
sounds
go.
Well,
Yes.
I'm also on AO3 as Stagger Romulus, but it's...
Oh, I have one of those too, but I don't post much. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I'm dropping a new fic in a couple days. Guess what it is?
What is it, honey?
It's Will Straw.
Wow.
My babies.
Yo!
Who's that?
From Metaphor.
Oh, okay.
My two scrunglies.
I'm excited.
I think you'd like Metaphor.
Hello? And we have another guest. Welcome,
Oh,
Owl.
welcome, Owl.
Hello.
Owl, would you like to introduce yourself since you come in here?
Yes.
We are live.
Oh, okay. I'm Owl. I'm a digital artist on Instagram and Tumblr, and I like video games.
Video James. Is there any
I like video
particular
games.
one you've made art for recently?
Well, you all might be shocked, but it's Dark Souls, Mass Effect, some Dragon Age, D&D, Baldur's Gate. I think that's the main stuff. I think.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yippee.
Hopefully soon I can start making stuff for my own story.
Yay!
Yay.
Original!
Yay!
Excited.
And then you'll make Honey read it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be cool.
What's the
Okay.
Dark Souls fic of?
Yeah,
Oh,
what's it
mine?
about?
Yeah. What's it called?
Oh, so it's called Alter Vita, and it's how do I it is about my original character.
Oh,
It's
cool.
perspective switch, so it's a POV alternating between my original character Atiri, who has lost all of her memory. She's just kind of appeared in the Firelink Shrine. She doesn't know what's happening. And then Oscar, Domhall, and Rhea. And
Ooh,
the main
fun.
story follows Atiri, and eventually all the other stories like come together. But Atiri is eventually accompanied by Petrus and Crestfallen, and they actually
Like
go
the
on the
crestfallen warrior or crestfallen merchant?
the
There's
Crestfallen
two.
warrior,
Best
Oh,
one.
nice.
the superior.
I'm not biased.
Yeah, but they're basically embarking on this mission together. Eventually, it takes them a while to actually get on board with it, and it's my longest and most ambitious project I've ever done
Oh,
because I'm not
cool.
even remotely halfway, and I'm already at 100,000 words.
Like they
Oh,
go on the adventure of Dark Souls together.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, cool.
that's cool.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, you have
Very
to post
vivid
it when you
imagery.
post the first
Yeah.
chapter.
Yeah, maybe we can even do a little bit of a reading here at some point.
Oh, I
Mhm.
would love that. It's been
Yeah.
so long since I've read back the older chapters.
Oh, you posted somewhere?
Yes,
Yeah.
that'd be so
Or
fun.
no?
Oh, I've posted it. Yeah, it's on AO3. My
wow.
Alter Vita. I've posted 26 chapters now. 27.
Oh,
Yeah.
searches.
Do you want me to send the link? I can do that.
Yeah, give it
I
to
mean,
and
Yeah,
then
do
we'll
it.
we'll
I'll
put
add
it
it to
in
the list.
ever
oh,
growing
thank
list.
you.
Mhm.
Oh, bye
Oh.
all.
Well,
She said, "I'm head out."
I'm so sorry. I don't know why my computer did that. I went to archive on our own and then it logged me out of Discord.
Yep.
oh, that's funny. Okay, I can pull it up. I know where it lives.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, we love ambitious projects. I know the pain.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
really.
Does everyone
Start.
here? I think everyone here has multi-chapter things, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Not posted. Well,
Yep.
posted but not posted. One posted, one not posted. One
Oh,
not ready to see light of day.
yeah. I did it in high school. I've taken them all down by now. I think so. But I
Yeah.
used to have a long running thing, but
You did?
yes, but I'm gonna remake it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have to see it at some point.
I'm not the same person I was. Drastically changed. You know
I
it.
get
You know how
that.
it is.
Yeah, I do.
Mm.
All right.
Okay. I
Oh.
guess. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be starting on our reading here now, and our first one is going to be A Storm is Coming by Mrs. Littletall.
Ooh.
And I have read this one before, but it's been a while, so it's going to be like new. And we're just going to do, since it's a larger fic, it's just going to be the first chapter that we're reading today.
yeah. And then if you like, we could switch it off, and we'll
Mhm.
facilitate that. I'm just sort of the cameraman here. You know how there's actors, and then there's the behind the scenes people.
Yes, you're Jeff the
For the live
cameraman
audience.
for the live audience. Yes.
Or in
Although we
front of
ask
the
for
live.
audience silence during the reading. Reactions after the show.
Aw.
Yeah,
There's
or
a laugh
you.
track.
The
the,
laugh track. Don't you dare. All right.
okay, go take
Got
it
it
away.
pulled up? Okay. For this fic, it's rated mature, and there are graphic depictions of violence. So if that's not your cup of tea, turn away now. It is a Chosen Undead and Dragon Slayer Ornstein. Ornstein. Oh, I better pick which one I want to say.
Ornstein.
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 Well,
Mine got.
well,
Ornstein.
well.
Ornstein.
I mean, to be fair, little says Ornstein, and I also say Ornstein
Yeah,
because
but
German.
Okay.
Ornstein sounds better, but whatever.
But Stein
Ornstein.
is Ornstein.
I-
Stein is
Mhm.
grammatically accurate.
Gotcha.
Fine.
Ornstein.
I don't
Chosen Undead and Dragon Slayer Ornstein. All right, here we go.
care.
Summary. The chosen undead stumbles into the Dark Moon tomb after having obtained the Lord Vessel, close to give up on his mission. But maybe he just needs a little bit of unexpected help? Also known as, Ornstein follows the chosen undead during his journey through the second half of Lordran. Chapter 1, Beginning. Ornstein had told Gwendolyn to take a rest. Since he had escaped death after his battle with the chosen undead, suffering some severe injuries, Gwendolyn had taken care of him almost every waking minute. He could see how exhausted they had started to become, and since he was feeling better, he had told them to go rest. He would be fine on his own for a few hours. Ornstein just laid in his bed and stared at the ceiling. It must have been 2 or 3 weeks since he had woken up, confused on why he wasn't dead, having to face the horrible truth that the one most dear to him had died in this battle. And while Ornstein knew that his wounds would heal and only leave a few new scars, the wounds in his heart felt like they would never be able to close. He missed Smo, who had been his lover every waking moment. The executioner had been one of the few people still close to him, one of the few who hadn't died, and Ornstein couldn't help but blame himself. He had at least promised Gwendolyn that he would never let anything happen to them. They were the last one left in his life, and he would rather die than let something harmful happen to them. So he froze when he heard that ominous sound of someone crossing the fog gate that Gwendolyn had put up in front of the Dark Moon tomb. Ornstein didn't spend a second thought about it. He got out of bed, grabbed his spear that leaned next to his armor at the wall, and staggered towards the hallway. He hadn't heard Gwendolyn talk to someone. They were surely still asleep, and he wouldn't let someone assassinate them under his watch. The one they had called the Chosen Undead, but actually preferred to go by the name Tempest, had decided to enter the fog gate after he had kneeled before it for an absurdly long time. He had found this ring from a trip to the catacombs earlier, and remembered some of the tales of the Dark Moon Blades. Maybe. With this ring he should be able to meet Dark Sun Gwendolyn, who was said to be the last born of Gwyn and one of the remaining deities in Anor Londo. So after he entered the fog gate, he was surprised to see a tall man standing there, dressed in some purple robes, long red hair in a braid, clutching a spear in his hands, looking very ready to stab him with it, but also, with the slumped position he was in and the bandages around his head, he looked like he had been hurt. Tempest decided to clutch his katana a bit tighter into his hands. He had been attacked without warning far too often in this land. "Don't come another step closer," the man hissed. "I won't let you lay a single finger on them." Tempest cocked his head, opening the visor part of his elite knight helmet to take a closer look at the man. Obvious that he was hurt, and it seemed like it was quite bad. Are you sure you're up for a fight?" he asked. "'Cause you, look like you should stay in bed." "Silence!" the man shouted. "Why should you have come to this place uninvited, if not to try and assassinate them?" He clutched his spear tighter, the knuckles of his fingers turning white. Tempest stared at the spear and the man. Both of them looked so awfully familiar. Then it hit him like a brick. You're the Dragon Slayer!" he blurted out. With a shudder, he remembered the battle against the famous Dragon Slayer and the brutal executioner. Give me 1 second.
These readings are sponsored by Honey Honey and Straw.
Got it!
This,
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
All right.
Hello!
With a shudder, he remembered the battle against the famous Dragon Slayer and the brutal executioner. He had died again and again, stabbed, smashed, electrocuted, impaled, squashed, stabbed again. It had taken him an awful long time to finally get the Dragon Slayer down, and then the executioner had smashed his head under his hammer. How sturdy must the Dragon Slayer have been to survive such a blow? "I don't know why I am still alive, but you certainly weren't a great help in that," the Dragon Slayer quipped. "Now just back away and leave, or do you want to have another round?" Tempest relaxed. "I already beat you, remember?" he said. "Besides, I don't really want to fight you in this state. Actually, I don't want to fight at all. I just don't react very kindly when someone points the pointy end of a blade at me." "Why should I believe anything you say?" the Dragon Slayer hissed. Tempest sighed. Look, we can fight if you want, but for me it just means another trip back to the bonfire. For you it could be the end for good. The Dragon Slayer just stared at him. He looked baffled that this tiny undead even assumed that he could kill him, even though Tempest kinda had done it before. Then something unexpected happened. The Dragon Slayer muttered, "Oh no, not again," clasped a hand before his mouth, staggered behind one of the pillars at the wall, and then Tempest could hear very clear noises of him throwing up. "Yeah, definitely not going to fight you like this," he said one more time. Ornstein was standing there, staring at the puddle, wiping his mouth. How absolutely embarrassing. Not only did that undead not take him seriously at all, now he also had shown how absolutely weak he was at the moment. But his decision still stood strong. He wouldn't let him lay a single finger on Gwendolyn. So he froze when he felt someone laying a hand on his shoulder, half expecting it was the undead, but feeling even more horrified when he actually noticed one of Gwendolyn's snakes on the floor. "Go back to bed, Ornstein. I will handle this," they said, and turned to the chosen undead. "Thou hast intruded unto mine father's tomb uninvited, thine intentions unclear. If it is thine desire to spill blood in this place, then thou shalt be punished accordingly." They readied their catalyst, the spell to cast an illusion on the room already on their lips, when the undead spoke up. Actually, I came here to talk," he said, and a clatter implied that he threw his weapons on the ground. "I wanted to make it clear to your knight there," he cocked his head in Ornstein's direction, "but I wasn't feeling comfortable letting go of my weapons when he pointed his spear at me." "That is unexpected," Gwendolyn said. "What is it thou wish to talk about?" Ornstein's jaw dropped when he heard Gwendolyn's words. "Gwendolyn, you can't be serious," he started, but Gwendolyn shushed him with a move of their hand. "Let us at least hear what he has to say," they whispered. The undead seemed to have relaxed a bit and kneeled in front of both of them. "Dark Sun Gwendolyn, I am very sorry, but I must inform you that I can't complete the task assigned to me. I am close to giving up, and will go hollow soon." And that ends chapter 1.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
love
so
your
good.
voices.
I do
Yeah,
love your voices
you're
too.
great,
you.
Emma.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you
I
for
feel
the
like
compliment.
I'm being tucked to bed, like and having a
Oh.
bedtime story being read to me.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another reason why I
Cute.
love these two. It's so just like cozy.
Yeah, oh, it's so nice. Oh, Hazel.
She literally like I had to hold her back by her face, and I wanted to take a picture of that, but I
Mhm.
couldn't get it. Yeah, she's gonna be annoying, but that's okay.
Does she want to do a reading?
Oh yeah, she would be
Nice.
very good at it. Yeah, you just hear wow. She just go crazy.
Okay,
Best
I'm gonna
Ornstein
say
impression.
thank you, my Ornstein impression. It is growing in size. No, wait. That's not
What?
weird. It is
Huh?
improving. It is improving with time. I'm sorry. I got sorry. Leave me alone. Okay. But yeah, I would actually love to read more of that at some point. But
Yeah.
first,
Good intro
here
chapter.
is the next one we have. I am sending it now to the group.
Who's doing
Here we
what?
go. It is one that
Oh,
no.
holy shit.
yeah.
What is it?
Oh, yeah.
Emily.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I remember. I was there
Oh,
when it happened.
man.
wow. Who
You were
requested this?
there.
Wow.
I didn't request this one.
Somebody did. I'm glad they did.
Someone. Okay. Well, since it's mine, I feel like I kind of should read this one.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm interested
Oh man.
learning how you'll read one of the certain lines.
Oh
I
right. Oh
know.
no. I'm gonna wait before I
Maybe-
should quickly like just throw that in Google Translate.
Oh my no, Shindaru.
Oh man. Okay.
You fine. No, okay. Yes. Oh.
This is gonna be interesting. So one moment while I get Google Translate up too.
Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be great.
Oh, holy shit.
Ooh. Okay. I'm excited to read Alter Beta as well. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That's gonna
thank
be
you.
fun. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read the first chapter, and the
I
first chapter
know.
I've spent the most time on.
Yeah. Oh wait. Does that mean I get to read that the boar is a bull again? Yes. Yes, it
No,
does.
no.
Yes.
It's not in that chapter.
I don't think you edited it.
No, I did edit it. I did edit it.
Okay,
I
good.
promise I did.
Oh,
You
wait, the
said
fight with
so.
the rat. That one always comes to mind, though. I love that fight. I don't know. It's so
The
like
fight with the what?
the
The
rat. The
rat?
rat fight.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. That was, oh my gosh. It's all coming back to me.
Yes.
Yeah, the first chapter would be the prologue, and that one, I really like
Mhm.
that one.
Oh man, and what was it? Oh, and Stag. Do you want us to read Ariat at some point, or bits of it? Ariat, Stag. Blue.
Yes, I'm very curious to see how that and also with VR Duvek, uh,
Mhm.
I would like to read the third chapter, not just because it's the longest or most emotional, but because it has the most Romulan in it. And it's like
Ooh.
I'd put it there. I will bear the burden of the Romulan.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd hope it'd be less of a burden to you than everyone else.
I have a vague idea how to pronounce everything, but I can't guarantee I will do it correctly. But it's like it's a fictional language. It's fine.
Yeah.
And there's
Alright.
translations notes at the bottom too, so
Okay. So we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, I'm kind of nervous now. Oh boy. All right. So the one that we'll be reading next is Breaking Time by Night Honeybee, me. And I gotta say that Lux requested this of me. So it's not my fault that this exists. um, but yeah, no archive warnings apply. This is just silly little JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Adam Sandler little hijinks and shenanigan. I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Nice.
So
I'm
the summary
excited.
is Adam Sandler accidentally uses his universal remote to rewind time a little too far and finds himself in a bizarre time and place. And also shout out to Infel again for helping me with the Japanese in this because I wanted to write it in the actual kanji. So,
That's
okay,
dedication.
here we go. Now, well, here was an issue. Adam Sandler found himself very, very far away from the beat up couch in his apartment. This new place didn't smell like piss and beer, but rather a secret third thing, dusty and hot and humid, a place that felt more like a tipsy fever dream than reality. Intricate stonework formed the walls around him, and as his eyes adjusted more to the deep darkness, the odd furniture. I'm already messing up. To the deep darkness, the odd furniture caught his attention. Vases, urns, thick detailed rugs over the floor, some hanging on the walls. Everything screamed more than a rewind. It screamed an entirely new location. A handful of seconds passed before Adam lifted his head off the remote in his hand, careful not to press another button that might send him off to some other unknown location. He slid off the dusty old chase he'd woken on and kept a tight grip on the remote in his right hand, his thumb against the buttons, but curiosity keeping him from pressing them. Adam wove past piles of things covered in dusty sheets, things in wooden boxes, things in shattered piles and on the walls, and he let out a yelp as he stepped on something hard, jumping away and bumping into one of the covered piles of items. It groaned upon contact, old wood and leather, upset at being reminded of their presence in this world, and with one swift jerk, Adam hit the pause button. Adam let out a low whistle and a tight laugh beneath his breath. That was a close one, he said, flicking his gaze to the little, colorful glass marble he'd stepped on before adjusting the boxes, ensuring they were secure before pressing play. The dust and spiderweb settled, and without further concern, Adam stepped up to the large wooden door in the room.
Yay.
Adam ran his thumb over the door's metal knob, a layer of dust coming off with the motion. He curled his lip, a grunt of disgust leaving him. Looks like someone needs a cleaning lady. But he wrapped his hand around the knob anyhow, and, slow, turned it until the door creaked open. As he stepped out of the room, leaving the door open behind him, of course, he took cautious steps in a random direction, heading down a dreary hall filled with ancient portraits of men he didn't care about and the occasional side table filled with vase after vase. Adam had a realization. Who would he talk to about getting a cleaning service? This place seemed massive, its halls reminiscent of a luxurious manor of some kind, but, well, the dust just made it seem more like an abandoned, useless villa than a place of awe. Where even might the exit be? Adam hesitated for a moment as dread rose up on the nape of his neck, and he held himself back from running his hand over a railing as he slowed. My cat's on the keyboard.
Hi, Hazel.
Hi, Hazel. Hazel cameo. Sorry. Okay. Looking out down a long set of L-shaped stairs. A once brilliant chandelier hung from the ceiling, this area far more open than the halls Adam had wandered down, and any windows, or what he assumed were windows, were hidden by thick blackout curtains. Where was he? How far did the remote take him? It still worked, that he knew that. Was this the future? Had he truly not appreciated everything in his life that he'd find himself in the future? Everyone he'd ever known long, long dead? Now here's the Japanese, one sec. Oh, a low, low voice almost echoed in this open space. Adam flinched, turning around to find the source of the sound. Ore no domain ni azen ni shinyu dekiru hito wa sukunai? What the hell? My awful Japanese. Hesitant, Adam rested his hand on the railing and peered down into the room below. Standing at the base of the stairs was a man in the most ridiculous getup Adam had ever seen, almost a burst of yellow in this dim manner. This man looked like he was dressed for a parade, or even the circus, almost built like a gymnast, too. One hand was on his hip, his other lifted near his face, his fingers against his lips. Every inch of his tall, lanky body screamed something like performer, or maybe that was just the way this man wanted Adam's attention, the stance he was in like something that'd break Adam's back out if he tried holding it for more than 5 seconds. The slow wait as I translate this. Dio no mae de kotoba ga denai? My accent, man. Adam jumped at the voice, a chill running down his back. An instinct rather than thought rushed through his veins as he pressed the convenient subtitles button on his remote. Do you mind saying that again? Oh? The man chuckled, words appearing in front of him for Adam to read. Reading. You have the gall to request me, Dio, to repeat my sentence? The man, Dio, Adam supposed, laughed. He laughed and laughed, the noise echoing in these empty halls. The hairs on the back of Adam's neck froze, and he pressed the pause button. Whether this was the future, or some strange present, or some stranger past, Adam didn't want to figure out. He took a step away from the railing, hoping to find another set of stairs down a different hall, but stopped in his tracks, blood like ice, when Dio took a step up the stairs. Neither spoke for a moment. Even from this distance, Adam could see the furrow in Dio's brow, confusion and shock warring within his expression. The ice in Adam's blood turned into boiling heat. Who are you? Dio asked, words harsh, shot through bared teeth. How can you have the same type of stand? Adam lifted his hands in surrender, sweat gathering in the small of his back. I'm just an actor from Brooklyn, man. You can't ask me who I am or why I'm standing when I'm just as confused as you. Silence! Dio bristled, raising his hands. Power shot through the air, electrified against Adam's skin, and then Dio cried out, Zawardo! A being phased into the air behind Dio, another yellow thing, all sharp edges and glossy gold. It followed Dio's every step as he headed up the stairs, a sickening frown upon their faces, and Adam let out a pathetic cry, first starting to speed the way he'd come before changing direction and running off down a separate hall. I don't even know how I got here, he cried as Dio followed, Japanese being tossed in his direction, but he at least had the intellect to not look back to read the subtitles. Adam ran to the end of the hall, a dead end, and wrenched open the curtains of the window there to see where he might be. Unfamiliar architecture met him as he squinted through the sharp sunlight. Through the filthy glass was an empty street, arid and dusty, and oh, Toto, Adam wasn't in New York anymore, was he? The wooden floor behind him creaked, and Adam whipped around, his back to the wall, hands splayed against it. You don't know what you're messing with, he stuttered out, and Dio slunk against the side of the hallway, a predatory glint in his eyes as he stepped up to the edge of the light, stopping just short of it. You are nothing. Dio brought his hand to his face, his eyes glaring at Adam between his fingers. Nothing but a rat. Another wave of energy filled the air, and Adam shuddered, swallowing. Dio reached his hand out now, stepping away some to keep from touching the sunlight. Shut the curtains. Compelled, Adam turned and did as asked, and white-hot adrenaline flooded his veins as darkness enveloped him once more. Without another thought, he pressed the rewind button. Adam glanced over his shoulder as Dio stepped backwards, his hand inches from reaching Adam's soft flesh. Adam's heart pounded in his throat as his and Dio's eyes met, Dio's enraged glare sending a shiver down Adam's spine. Dio's lip curled and something clicked in Adam's head, seeing two long canines press into Dio's bottom lip. I know what you are, Adam breathed, glancing back at the window for a split second before again meeting Dio's eyes. As Dio continued to rewind, Adam followed him, slow step after slow step. Say it, Adam, out loud. Vampire. Something in Dio's expression shifted, the angry furrow in his brow gaining an amused lilt to it, but he continued to struggle within the trap of Adam's power, and something about that caused heat to gather in Adam's chest. So I'm right, Adam continued, smirking, his mind racing with the possibilities. Whatever time period he was in, wherever he was, he'd found the jackpot. How many hot chicks were into vampires in 2006? Oh, if Adam could star in a movie about a vampire and spark the beginning of a new era. Before he could think another word, Adam pushed play, and Dio halted. Hey man, Adam began, raising his hands in surrender. The cocky grin lingered on his face. Since you're a vampire, you can make other people vampires, right? Like the hot kind, like you? Dio scoffed, stepping forward again, haughty but cautious at being released from a power that trumped his own. You wish to bear a portion of my power? His frown twisted into a grim smirk. You are a strange one, infiltrating my stronghold. How quickly you've proven yourself worthy to be beneath me. Without any more hassle, Dio reached out and buried his fingers into Adam's flesh, strange, veiny protrusions sinking deep in Adam's arm. At first he screamed in shock and fear, but soon he shut himself up, his blood pulsing in his body, pulsating and throbbing, but it felt so good. And soon it was over like a one-night stand, and Dio retreated his protrusions from Adam's flesh. You shall be a mighty ally indeed, he said. Psych, bitch! Adam shot out, pressing fast forward, and his world became a blur. Movement and people and buildings and everything shot past him and around him, and everything was everywhere, and maybe along the way he took a bathroom break or two. But eventually, everything stopped. Adam found himself on his couch that smelled of piss and beer and home, and he sighed in relief. But now it wasn't a beer he craved. He went to the local blood bank and raided their stock, then returned home and passed out on his couch with the buzz only blood can give. With a heavy, content sigh, he snuggled into his couch and crossed his arms over his chest. After a long nap, Adam woke up and auditioned for the lead role in the movie adaptation of Twilight, the hit book by Stephenie Meyer. He somehow got the role of Edward Cullen, while the runner-up, Robert Pattinson, became best known for his role years down the line as Batman in the Batman 2022.
Thank you so much.
Oh my god.
That was amazing. Great job.
Cracking up, man. Oh my gosh. Worth every second, worth every penny. Yes.
The clapping.
Oh man, thank Thank you.
That was
This
so
is
good.
this is crazy. All because of Lux.
Mhm. Oh.
It just
All
continues
right.
to become
I
things I
will-
wasn't expecting.
I will leave kudos on it.
Thank you. I want to address everyone's attention that it is part 3 of the Cursed Fix series that I have, where I put all my nightmares, and there's 2 other things in there that are pieces of nightmares that I've had. So there's more where that came from.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Y'all won't believe this. The next request is actually it's not a fic. It is not a fic. It is who requested Alien requested a reading of Dracula by Bram Stoker.
Holy shit! We're gonna read the whole book.
Really read this.
What one to read after some vampire fic?
Hey,
You
who
know
want
what?
more vampires?
Oh my god! It's very fitting. You know what? It's the crossover we never knew we needed.
Oh,
read.
my.
I've actually, well, sort of. Like, I have an illustrated edition, but I recently learned that most of my illustrated editions are cut down and sanitized. So it will be nice to actually see this,
Mm-hmm.
assuming this is the full thing.
Yes, it
looks
is.
looks like
actually.
it. All right,
Yeah.
everyone has 6 hours free, right?
Chapter 1. Listen, multi-chapter things. Chapter 1. That's it, man.
Okay, chapter 1's actually not that long. It just
Yeah.
oh well, maybe it's
Oh, this is the is this the Dracula?
I need to save this.
Yeah.
Like the
it is.
original one?
Yep, it is.
Oh, nice.
Very
Getting
cool.
into some actual literature today.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Honey's fic wasn't already peak literature.
Okay, I'll zoom into this a little more just so I could actually read it.
Yeah.
It's small
Alright.
from me.
Oh, that's right. So it sounds like you're volunteering, Lux.
I don't think so.
I will volunteer.
Ooh, alright.
Yay, thank you, Stag.
Alright. What am I doing? Give me a second. I'm gonna this out. Okay. I think. Chapter 1, Jonathan Harker's Journal. 3rd of May, Bistritz. Left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on 1st of May, arriving in Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but the train was an hour late. Budapest seems a wonderful place. From the glimpse which I got of it from the train and little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station as we arrived late and would start as near the correct time as possible. The impression I had was that we were leaving the west and entering the east, the most western of splendid bridges over the Danube, which is here of noble width and depth, took us among the traditions of Turkish rule. We left in pretty good time and came after nightfall in Klausenberg. Here I stopped for the night at Hotel Royal. I had for dinner, or rather supper, a chicken done up some way with red pepper, which was very good but thirsty. Mim. It recipe for Minna. I asked the waiter and he said it was called paprika hindel. I am so sorry if I'm pronouncing all of this wrong. And that as it was a national dish, I should be able to get it anywhere along the Carp Carp Fanes, Carpathians. I found my smattering of German very useful here. Indeed, I don't know how I should be able to get on without it. Having had some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country could hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with the noblemen of that country. I find that the district he named named is in the extreme east of the country, just on the borders of the three states Transylvania, Moldo- Moldavia, and
Moldavia,
Moldavia and
Bukovina, uh,
Bukovina.
Bukovina.
Yes, thank you. In the midst of
I
the
don't know if my pronunciation is any better. I'm just helping.
in the in the midst of the
Car-
Car
Carpathian Mountains.
yes, Carpathian Mountains, one of the widest and least known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any I was unable to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of the castle Dracula, as there were no maps of this country as yet to compare with our own Ordnance Survey maps. I found that in Bistritz, the post town named by Count Dracula, is a fairly well known place. I shall enter here some of my notes as they may refresh my memory when I talk over my travels with Minna. In the population of Transylvania, there are four distinct nationalities: Saxons in the south, mixed with them the Wallach, who are the descendants of the Dacians, Magyars in the west. Oh, Doc is probably going to kill me for that pronunciation. I know what it is. It's Hungarian for Hungarian. Magyars in the west, and I am sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this one. In the east and north, I am going among the latter who claim to be descended from Al- Al-
From Attila the Huns. Wait,
Attila
Attila
and
and the Huns.
yeah, Attila and the Huns. This may be so, for when the Magyars conquered the country in the 11th century, they found the Huns settled in it. I read that every known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the center of some sort of imaginative whirlpool. If so, my stay might be very interesting. And I must ask the Count all about them. I did not sleep well, though my bed was comfortable enough, for I had all sorts of queer dreams. There was, there was, Corey, please.
Sorry.
There was a, there was a dog howling all night under my window, which may have had something to do with it, or it may have been the paprika, for I had to drink up all the water in my carafe and was still thirsty. Towards the morning, I slept and was awakened by the continuous knocking at my door, so I guess I must have been sleeping soundly then. I had for breakfast some more paprika and a sort of porridge with maize flour, which they said was mamaliga, and eggplant stuffed with forcemeat. A very excellent dish, which they called Lord,
In, like,
imp
implatata?
maybe. I
Maybe.
don't I don't know if this is supposed to be Turkish, Hungarian, or something else.
I
Which
have
is what
no idea.
it is.
Maize is corn, by the way.
Yes.
Just another word for that.
And get recipes for this also. I had to hurry breakfast, for the train started a little before 8, or rather it ought to have done so. For after rushing to the station at 7:30, I had to sit in the carriage for more than an hour before we began to move. It seems to me that the further east you go, the more impunctual are the trains. What ought they to be in China? I think the way the sentence structure is also tripping me up a little bit. But it's an old book, so.
Yeah, it's not ADHD friendly.
All day long we seemed to dawdle through a country which was full of beauty of every kind. Sometimes we saw little towns or castles on the top of steep hills, such as we see old missals. Missals. Sometimes we ran by rivers and streams which seemed from the wide stony margin on each side of them to be subject to great floods. It takes a lot of water and running running strong to sweep outside the edge of a river clear. At every station there were groups of people, sometimes crowds, and in all sorts of attire. Some of them some of them were just like the peasants at home or those I saw coming from France and Germany, with short jackets and round hats and homemade trousers. But others were very picturesque. The women looked pretty, except when you got near them. They were very clumsy about the waist. They had they had all full white sleeves of some kind or other, and most of them had big belts with lots of strips of something flittering from them, like the dresses in a ballet. Uh, but of course, there were petticoats under them. The strange figures we saw were Slovaks, who were who were more barbarian than the rest, with their big cowboy hats, great big dirty white trousers, white linen shirts, and enormous heavy leather belts nearly a foot wide, all studded over with brass nails. They wore high boots with their trousers tucked into them, and they had long black hair and heavy black mustaches. They are very picturesque, but do not look prepossessing. On the stage, they would be set down at once as some old Oriental band of brigands. They are, however, I am told, very harmless and rather wanting in natural self assertion. It was on the dark side of twilight when we got to Bistritz, which is a very interesting old place, being practically on the frontier, for the Borgo Pass leads from it to Bukovina. It has had a very stormy existence, and it certainly shows marks of it. 50 years ago, a series of great fires took place, which made terrible havoc on 5 separate occasions. At the very beginning of the 17th century, it underwent a siege of 3 weeks and lost 13,000 people, the casualties of war proper being assessed by famine and disease. Count Dracula had directed me to go to Golden Crone Hotel, which I found, to my great delight, to be thoroughly old-fashioned. For of course I wanted to see all I could of the ways of this country. I was evidently expected, for when I got near the door I faced a cheery-looking elderly woman in the usual peasant dress, white undergarments with long double apron front and back, of colored stuff fitting almost too tight for modesty. When I came close, she bowed and said, "The Herr Englishman?" "Yes, Jonathan Harker." She smiled and gave some message to an elderly man in white shirt sleeves who had followed her to the door. He went, but immediately returned with a letter. My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight. At 3 tomorrow, the diligence will start for Bookvania, a place on which it is kept for you. At the Borgo Pass, my carriage will await you and bring you to me. I trust that your journey from London has been a happy one, and that you will enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, Dracula.
That was awesome. Stag, do you want to switch at this point?
Yes,
Or you
please.
want to keep going? Okay, okay.
Are you passing the baton to?
I'm taking it up, unless somebody else wants to volunteer.
Yeah, if you could go first, then I could go after you if we still wanted to keep reading after, like, we get to whatever next break there is.
Yeah, that
Yes.
sounds good.
Sounds perfect. There's a break later on, a couple paragraphs in, at Den bij de Todden of Reiten Schnell. Very
Oh god.
Ooh.
Don't worry, I'll make it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Stag, that Dracula impression was amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
Like, okay, intimidated.
And they were throwing a lot of like weird ass words. I mean, okay, they're not weird; they're just hard to pronounce. Like,
Yeah, it's like,
they're a little
I-
more buried.
funnily enough, I recognize, like, Magyar to be Hungarian for Hungarian, but everything else I just don't. Like, I think the word with an SC is also Hungarian because SC is a Hungarian thing.
oh, okay.
One of the great things about being part of the Manhattan Project fandom is that you pick up on a lot of things Hungarian because there was like 4 notable Hungarians in that project.
Oh, wow. That's
Like,
amazing.
yeah, it's like Edward Teller, Leos Lizard,
Like,
uh, John von Neumann, and Eugene Wigner.
oh, like,
Oh,
like the Manhattan Project.
Yes,
Oh, cool. Like the historical one.
yes, A-bomb,
Mhm.
H-bomb, Oppenheimer,
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
like
Ooh.
drawings and all that. Los
I
Los
haven't
Alamos.
I haven't seen the Oppenheimer movie, but I heard it's very good, so I'd like to see it at some point.
There's also a BBC series on Tubi that I also recommend. It's a bit more historically
oh,
accurate. Like
Oh yeah.
the movie is very, very dramatized. I will,
Yeah, I'm sure.
but yeah, trust me, I can
Mhm.
recommend all sorts of things for learning about watch.
Yeah.
Anyways, yes, it's like I saw Dracula. I was like, I need to do an accent now.
yes.
If I can figure it out, I really wanted to roll my R's, but I'm not good at getting myself to roll R's. Like I can, like, hold on. There,
Ooh.
yeah,
Yes.
ragazzi.
I can't roll my
Mhm.
R's.
Me neither.
I'll
I
have to
just sound like I'm
practice.
But
growling.
I
basically,
don't know.
they,
Is it
A
a
little
thing you
bit.
can learn, or are just some people not capable of doing it?
so with the thrilled R's, you have to do your R's like you do your L's. Like you need to do it at the front of your mouth. It's sort of like you need to press your tongue up to between where your teeth meet the back of your teeth and try to do it that way.
Very, very rapacious. Very nice. It's hard. It's difficult. It's tricky.
But yeah, basically,
Alright.
I know a video. I'll link a video later.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to practice too. I want to get better at it.
Yeah, me as
Same.
well.
Alright.
So I can
Mhm.
speak Spanish and not sound silly.
Perro,
Oh yeah.
perro, perro. Okay, dog. All right.
Yeah.
Not I ready for the next part.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
here we go. I found that my landlord had got a letter from the Count directing him to secure the best place on the coach for me. But on making inquiries as to details, he seemed somewhat reticent and pretended that he could not understand my German. This could not be true because up to then he had understood it perfectly. At least he answered my questions exactly as if he did. He and his wife, the old lady who had received me, looked at each other in a frightened sort of way. He mumbled out that the money had been sent in a letter, and that was all he knew. When I asked him if he knew Count Dracula and could tell me anything of his castle, both he and his wife crossed themselves and, saying that they knew nothing at all, simply refused to speak further. It was so near the time of starting that I had no time to ask any one else, for it was all very mysterious and not by any means comforting. Just before I was leaving, the old lady came up to my room and said in a very hysterical way, "Go! Oh, young here, must you go?" She was in such an excited state that she seemed to have lost her grip of what German she knew and mixed it all up with some other language which I did not know at all. I was just able to follow her by asking many questions. When I told her that I must go at once and that I was engaged on important business, she asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" I answered that it was the 4th of May. She shook her head as she said again, "Oh, yes, I know that, but do you know what day it is?" On my saying that I did not understand, she went on, "It is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you know where you are going and what you are going to do?" She was in such evident distress that I tried to comfort her, but without effect. Finally, she went down on her knees and implored me not to go, at least to wait a day or two before starting. It was all very ridiculous, but I did not feel comfortable. However, there was business to be done, and I could allow nothing to interfere with it. I therefore tried to raise her up, and said, as gravely as I could, that I thanked her, but my duty was imperative, and that I must go. She then rose and dried her eyes, and, taking a crucifix from her neck, offered it to me. I did not know what to do, for, as an English churchman, I have been taught to regard such things as in some measure idolatrous, and yet it seemed so ungracious to refuse an old lady meaning so well and in such a state of mind. She saw, I suppose, the doubt in my face, for she put the rosary round my neck and said, "For your mother's sake," and went out of the room. I am writing up this part of the diary whilst I am waiting for the coach, which is, of course, late, and the crucifix is still round my neck. Whether it is the old lady's fear, or the many ghostly traditions of this place, or the crucifix itself, I do not know, but I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. If this book should ever reach Mina before I do, let it bring my goodbye. Here comes the coach. 5th of May, the castle. The grey of the morning has passed, and the sun is high over the distant horizon, which seems jagged, whether with trees or hills I know not, for it is so far off that big things and little are mixed. I am not sleepy, and, as I am not to be called till I awake, naturally I write till sleep comes. There are many odd things to put down, and, lest who reads them may fancy that I dined too well before I left Bistritz, let me put down my dinner exactly. I dined on what they called rubber steak. Bits of bacon, onion, and beef, seasoned with red pepper, and strung on sticks and roasted over the fire, in the simple style of the London meat. The wine was golden mediask, which produces a queer sting on the tongue, which is, however, not disagreeable. I had only a couple of glasses of this, and nothing else. When I got on the coach, the driver had not taken his seat, and I saw him talking with the landlady. They were evidently talking of me, for every now and then they looked at me, and some of the people who were sitting on the bench outside the door, which they call by a name meaning word-bearer, came and listened, and then looked at me, most of them pityingly. I could hear a lot of words, often repeated queer words, for there were many nationalities in the crowd. So I quietly got my polyglot dictionary from my bag and looked them out. I must say they were not cheering to me, for amongst them were Ordog, Satan, Pukul, Hell, Stregoika, Witch, Volok, and Vkoslak, both of which mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Servian for something that is either werewolf or vampire. Memento, I must ask the Count about these superstitions. When we started, the crowd round the inn door, which had by this time swelled to a considerable size, all made the sign of the cross and pointed 2 fingers towards me. With some difficulty I got a fellow passenger to tell me what they meant. He would not answer at first, but on learning that I was English, he explained that it was a charm or guard against the evil eye. This was not very pleasant for me, just starting for an unknown place to meet an unknown man, but everyone seemed so kind-hearted, and so sorrowful, and so sympathetic that I could not but be touched. I shall never forget the last glimpse which I had of the inn yard and its crowd of picturesque figures, all crossing themselves as they stood round the wide archway, with its background of rich foliage of oleander and orange trees and green tubs clustered in the centre of the yard. Then our driver, whose wide linen drawers covered the whole front of the box seat, Gotza, they called them, cracked his big whip over his 4 small horses, which ran abreast, and we set off on our journey. I soon lost sight and recollection of ghostly fears in the beauty of the scene as we drove along, although had I known the language, or rather languages, which my fellow passengers were speaking, I might not have been able to throw them off so easily. Before us lay a green sloping land full of forests and woods, with here and there steep hills crowned with clumps of trees or with farmhouses, the blank gable end to the road. There was everywhere a bewildering mass of fruit blossom, apple, plum, pear, cherry, and as we drove by I could see the green grass under the trees spangled with the fallen petals. In and out amongst these green hills of what they call here the Mittelland ran the road, losing itself as it swept round the grassy curve, or was shut out by the straggling ends of pine woods, which here and there ran down the hillsides like tongues of flame. The road was rugged, but still we seemed to fly over it with a feverish haste. I could not understand then what the haste meant, but the driver was evidently bent on losing no time in reaching Borgo Prund. I was told this road is in summertime excellent, but that it had not yet been put in order after the winter snows. In this respect, it is different from the general run of roads in the Carpathians, for it is an old tradition that they are not to be kept in too good order. Of old, the Hospodars would not repair them, lest the Turks should think that they were preparing to bring in foreign troops, and so hasten the war which was always really at loading point. Beyond the green swelling hills of the Mittelland rose mighty slopes of forest up to the lofty steeps of the Carpathians themselves. Right and left of us they towered, with the afternoon sun falling full upon them and bringing out all the glorious colours of this beautiful range, deep blue and purple in the shadows of the peaks, green and brown where grass and rock mingled, and an endless perspective of jagged rock and pointed crags, till these were themselves lost in the distance, where the snowy peaks rose grandly. Here and there seemed mighty rifts in the mountains, through which, as the sun began to sink, we saw now and again the white gleam of falling water. One of my companions touched my arm as we swept round the base of a hill and opened up the lofty, snow-covered peak of a mountain, which seemed, as we wound on our serpentine way, to be right before us. "Look, Ischen Schreck! God's seat!" and he crossed himself reverently. As we wound on our endless way and the sun sank lower and lower behind us, the shadows of the evening began to creep round us. This was emphasized by the fact that the snowy mountain tops still held the sunset and seemed to glow out with a delicate cool pink. Here and there we passed Czechs and Slovaks, all in picturesque attire, but I noticed that goiter was painfully prevalent. By the roadside were many crosses, and as we swept by, my companions all crossed themselves. Here and there was a peasant man or woman kneeling before a shrine, who did not even turn around as we approached, but seemed in the self-surrender of devotion to have neither eyes nor ears for the outer world. There were many things new to me. For instance, hayricks in the trees, and here and there very beautiful masses of weeping birch, their white stems shining like silver through the delicate green of the leaves. Now and again we passed a later wagon, the ordinary peasant's cart with its long snake-like vertebra, calculated to suit the inequalities of the road. On this were sure to be seated quite a group of homecoming peasants, the Czechs with their white and the Slovaks with their coloured sheepskins, the latter carrying lance fashion their long staves with
I think your headphones got out again.
Okay, I'm back.
Goodbye, my lover. Oh.
I know, I came back. My headset cuts out sometimes. Let me pull something up to listen to really quickly so that doesn't happen again. But how are you guys enjoying it so far, hopefully.
I like it.
It's very interesting.
I like it
and
so. Yeah, I like it
yeah.
so far.
Hey.
It's definitely
Yes.
enjoyable hearing you read it.
Thank you. All right. Here we go. Oh man, I'm enjoying it too. It's never fun when things cut out.
Yeah.
But, all right, I'm gonna continue reading though. Let's do this. All right, where were we at? We were at. Ah, yes. On this were sure to be seated quite a group of homecoming peasants, the Czechs with their white, and the Slovaks with their coloured sheepskins, the latter carrying lance fashion their long staves with axe at end. As the evening fell, it began to get very cold, and the growing twilight seemed to merge into one dark mistiness, the gloom of the trees, oak, beech, and pine, though in the valleys which ran deep between the spurs of the hills as we ascended through the pass, the dark firs stood out here and there against the background of late-lying snow. Sometimes, as the road was cut through the pine woods that seemed in the darkness to be closing down upon us, great masses of greyness, which here and there bestrewed the trees, produced a peculiarly weird and solemn effect, which carried on the thoughts and grim fancies engendered earlier in the evening, when the falling sunset threw into strange relief the ghost-like clouds which amongst the Carpathians seemed to wind ceaselessly through the valleys. Sometimes the hills were so steep that, despite our driver's haste, the horses could only go slowly. I wished to get down and walk up them, as we do at home, but the driver would not hear of it. "No, no," he said, "you must not walk here. The dogs are too fierce." And he added, with what he evidently meant for grim pleasantry, for he looked round to catch the approving smile of the rest, "and you may have enough of such matters before you go to sleep." The only stop he would make was a moment's pause to light his lamps. When it grew dark, there seemed to be some excitement amongst the passengers, and they kept speaking to him, one after the other, as though urging him to further speed. He lashed the horses unmercifully with his long whip, and with wild cries of encouragement urged them on to further exertions. Then through the darkness I could see a sort of patch of grey light ahead of us, as though there were a cleft in the hills. The excitement of the passengers grew greater. The crazy coach rocked on its great leather springs and swayed like a boat tossed on a stormy sea. I had to hold on. The grey road grew more level, and now we appeared to fly along. Then the mountains seemed to come nearer to us on each side and to frown down upon us. We were entering on the Borgo Pass. One by one several of the passengers offered me gifts, which they pressed upon me with an earnestness which would take no denial. These were certainly of an odd and varied kind, but each was given in simple good faith, with a kindly word and a blessing, and with that strange mixture of fear-meaning movements which I had seen outside the hotel at Bistritz, the sign of the cross and the guard against the evil eye. Then, as we flew along, the driver leaned forward, and on each side the passengers, craning over the edge of the coach, peered eagerly into the darkness. It was evident that something very exciting was either happening or expected, but though I asked each passenger, no one would give me the slightest explanation. This state of excitement kept on for some little time, and at last we saw before us the pass opening out onto the eastern side. There were dark, rolling clouds overhead, and in the air the heavy, oppressive sense of thunder. It seemed as though the mountain range had separated two atmospheres, and that now we had got into the thunderous one. I was now myself looking out for the conveyance which was to take me to the Count. Each moment I expected to see the glare of lamps through the blackness, but all was dark. The only light was the flickering rays of our own lamps, in which the steam from our hard-driven horses rose in a white cloud. We could see now the sandy road lying white before us, but there was on it no sign of a vehicle. The passengers drew back with a sigh of gladness, which seemed to mock my own disappointment. I was already thinking what I had best do, when the driver, looking at his watch, said to the others something which I could hardly hear. It was spoken so quietly and so low a tone. I thought it was. Then turning to me, he said in German, worse than my own, "There is no carriage here. The heir is not expected after all. He will now come on to Bukovina and return tomorrow for the next day. Better the next day. Whilst he was speaking, the horses began to neigh and snort and plunge wildly, so the driver had to hold them up. Then, amongst a chorus of screams from the peasants and a universal crossing of themselves, a calatia with 4 horses drove up behind us, overtook us, and drew up beside the coach. I could see from the flash of our lamps as the rays fell on them that the horses were coal-black and splendid animals. They were driven by a tall man with a long brown beard and a great black hat, which seemed to hide his face from us. I could only see the gleam of a pair of very bright eyes, which seemed red in the lamplight as he turned to us. He said to the driver, "You are early tonight, my friend." The man stammered and replied, "The English help is in a hurry," to which the stranger replied, "That is why I suppose you wished him to go on to Bukovina. You cannot deceive me, my friend. I know too much, and my horses are swift." As he spoke, he smiled, and the lamplight fell on a hard-looking mouth with very red lips and sharp-looking teeth, as white as ivory. One of my companions whispered to another the line from Burgers. Little
Shut up.
Dinde Toten reiten schnell, for the dead travel fast. And this is where we'll switch.
Alrighty.
Ooh.
Burger.
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 Burger. I didn't know that was a name.
This is my favorite quote from Burger King.
Thank you. Sponsored by Burger King. No, we're not.
All right, I'll do my best to end us off. My accents are not gonna happen because they're so bad. So,
You sure? You sure you want to give it a
I'm
crack?
very sure.
Okay.
I'm definitely not gonna try it out when we're live right now.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
You don't want to give it a crack?
So
Maybe one sentence.
Maybe
what's
one
up, Corey?
sentence.
I was just saying summary so far. So they just showed up at the castle and there's black horses.
Yeah, they're still on the
Yeah.
road. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're
there are
still-
black horses that just came up beside him like, "Ha, you tried to not send this Englishman to me. Joke's on you, I got fast horses."
He's like, this guy better come into my castle. Or else.
Yeah.
Also, question:
Answer?
does anyone know how to like cure toxic in Dark Souls?
The
Yes.
moss clump.
Blooming moss clump.
Blooming Moss Club. Oh, dang it! I don't have any of those.
Oh no. How could Britney Spears do this?
Does that one lady in Jarborg sell them?
Probably. I don't know. You can you can go to Darkroot and kill a bunch of trees and get them off their bodies.
Yeah.
I
Dark
think
Guardian
the
or Guardian,
the
or whatever it's called.
hollowed merchant lady sells them in the sewer thing behind the cage. We're talking about the first game, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The hollow lady sells them.
Yeah. The Moss Lady. Yeah.
You like my moss? He doesn't say
Keep it
that.
that
I just made
cost.
that up.
I love her and her moss.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alright.
Night Honeybee, are
Cool.
you ready to Night Honey continue?
You tried with that one. Good job.
It's not one of my best rhymes, especially because it didn't rhyme.
Yeah. No worries. But yeah, okay, I'll do my absolute best. Little sippy of water.
Zip, zip.
Nom, 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 nom. All right. The strange driver evidently heard the words, for he looked up with a gleaming smile. The passenger turned his face away, at the same time putting out his 2 fingers and crossing himself. "Give me the heir's luggage," said the driver, and with exceeding alacrity, my bags were handed out and put in the caleche. Then I descended from the side of the coach as the caleche was closed along, the driver helping me with a hand which caught my arm in a grip of steel. His strength must have been prodigious. Without a word, he shook his reins, the horses turned, and we swept into the darkness of the pass. As I looked back, I saw the steam from the horses of the coach by the light of the lamps, and projected against it the figures of my late companions crossing themselves. Then the driver cracked his whip and called to his horses, and off they swept on their way to Bukovina. As they sank into the darkness, I felt a strange chill, and a lonely feeling came over me, but a cloak was thrown over my shoulders and a rug across my knees, and the driver said in excellent German, "The night is chill, mein Herr, and my master the Count bade me take all care of you. There's a flask of Slivovitz, the plum brandy of the country, underneath the seat, if you should require it." I did not take any, but it was a comfort to know it was there all the same. I felt a little strangely, and not a little frightened. I think, had there been any alternative, I should have taken it instead of prosecuting that unknown night journey. The carriage went at a hard pace straight along. Then we made a complete turn and went along another straight road. It seemed to me that we were simply going over and over the same ground again, and so I took note of the same salient point and found that this was so. I would have liked to have asked the driver what this all meant, but I really feared to do so, for I thought that, placed as I was, any protest would have had no effect in case there had been an intention to delay. By and by, however, as I was curious to know how time was passing, I struck a match, and by its flame looked at my watch. It was within a few minutes of midnight. This gave me a sort of shock, for I suppose the general superstition about midnight was increased by my recent experiences. I waited with a sick feeling of suspense. Then a dog began to howl somewhere in a farmhouse far down the road, a long, agonized wailing, as if from fear. The sound was taken up by another dog, and then another, till, borne on the wind which now sighed softly through the pass, a wild howling began, which seemed to come from all over the country, as far as the imagination could grasp it through the gloom of the night. At the first howl, the horses began to strain and rear, but the driver spoke to them soothingly, and they quieted down, but shivered and sweated, as though after a runaway from a sudden fright. Then, far off in the distance, from the mountains on each side of us, began a louder and sharper howling, that of wolves, which affected both the horses and myself in the same way, for I was minded to jump from the calash and run, whilst they reared again and plunged madly, so that the driver had to use all his great strength to keep them from bolting. In a few minutes, however, my own ears got accustomed to the sound, and the horses so far became quiet that the driver was able to descend and to stand before them. He petted and soothed them, and whispered something in their ears, as I have heard of horse tamers doing, and with extraordinary effect, for under his caress they became quite manageable again, though they still trembled. The driver again took his seat, shaking his reins, started off at a great pace. This time, after going to the far side of the pass, he suddenly turned down a narrow roadway which ran sharply to the right. Soon we were hemmed in with the trees, which in places arched right over the roadway till we passed as through a tunnel, and again great frowning rocks guarded us boldly on either side. Though we were in shelter, we could hear the rising wind, for it moaned and whistled through the rocks, and the branches of the trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine, powdery snow began to fall, so that soon we and all around us were covered with a white blanket. The keen wind still carried the howling of the dogs, though this grew fainter as we went on our way. The baying of the wolves sounded nearer and nearer, as though they were closing round on us from every side. I grew dreadfully afraid, and the horses shared my fear. The driver, however, was not in the least disturbed. He kept turning his head to the left and right, but I could not see anything through the darkness. Suddenly, away on our left, I saw a faint, flickering blue flame. The driver saw it at the same moment. He at once checked the horses and, jumping to the ground, disappeared into the darkness. I did not know what to do. Bless as howling of the wolves grew closer, but while I wondered, the driver suddenly appeared again, and without a word took his seat, and we resumed our journey. I think I must have fallen asleep and kept dreaming of the incident, for it seemed to be repeated endlessly, and now looking back, it is like a sort of awful nightmare. Once the flame appeared so near the road that even in the darkness around us I could watch the driver's motions. He went rapidly to where the blue flame arose. It must have been very faint, for it did not seem to illumine the place around it at all. and gathered a few stones, formed them into some device. Once there appeared a strange optical effect. When he stood between me and the flame, he did not obstruct it, for I could see its ghostly flicker all the same. This startled me, but as the effect was only momentary, I took it that my eyes deceived me, straying through the darkness. Then for a time there were no blue flames, and we sped onwards through the gloom, with the howling of the wolves around us, as though they were following in a moving circle. At last there came a time when the driver went further afield than he had yet gone, and during his absence the horses began to tremble worse than ever, and to snort and scream with fright. I could not see any cause for it, for the howling of the wolves had ceased altogether, but just then the moon, sailing through the black clouds, appeared behind the jagged crest of a beetling, pine-clad rock, and by its light I saw around us a ring of wolves with white teeth and lolling red tongues, with long, sinewy limbs and shaggy hair. They were 100 times more terrible in the grim silence which held them than even when they howled. For myself, I felt a sort of paralysis of fear. It is only when a man feels himself face to face with such horrors that he can understand their true import. All at once the wolves began to howl as though the moonlight had had some peculiar effect on them. The horses jumped about and reared, and looked helplessly round with eyes that rolled in a way painful to see, but the living ring of terror encompassed them on every side, and they had perforce to remain within it. I called to the coachman to come, for it seemed to me that our only chance was to try to break out through the ring to aid his approach. I shouted and beat the side of the calash, hoping by the noise to scare the wolves from that side, so as to give him a chance of reaching the trap. How he came there I know not, but I heard his voice raised in a tone of imperious command, and looking towards the sound I saw him stand in the roadway. As he swept his long arms, as though brushing aside some impalpable obstacle, the wolves fell back and back further still. Just then a heavy cloud passed across the face of the moon, so that we were again in darkness. When I could see it again, the driver was climbing into the caleche, and the wolves had disappeared. This was all so strange and uncanny that a dreadful fear came upon me, and I was afraid to speak or move. The time seemed interminable as we swept on our way, now in almost complete darkness, for the rolling clouds obscured the moon. We kept on ascending, with occasional periods of quiet descent, but in the main always ascending. Suddenly, I became conscious of the fact that the driver was in the act of pulling up the horses in the courtyard of a vast, ruined castle, from whose tall, black windows came no ray of light, and whose broken battlements showed a jagged line against the moonlit sky.
Whoa.
That was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was not expecting the
Scary.
wolves. Yeah.
It's
Me
scary.
either.
It's scary.
It's
Wow.
It's like a classic, right? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
classic horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This feels like a play to me. Like I could see it so perfectly in theater kind of thing.
Yeah.
Man. That is so fun. Oh. All right.
Thank you, the three of you, for reading that one.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, that was
awesome.
cool.
Mhm. Let's see. The next one we had was. Wait. Did we read this one? Oh no, we did not.
Which one?
It's Fihar Duvek.
Oh yeah, that's mine.
Hey yo! We
Yeah,
do
we
a
didn't
chapter of
read-
it.
Yeah, we didn't read that yet. Well, let's see. There's all of us in here. I think we can read all five because, like, the longest chapter is chapter 3, and it starts like chapter 1's pretty short. Chapter 2 is a decent length, and then longest one is chapter 3, and then it just gets shorter. Like 4
Yeah.
and 5. Like chapter 5, I believe, is the shortest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. That would
Oh,
be perfect.
I did want to say, does anyone want to maybe sippy, stretch, anything like that? Good.
I'm gonna.
I can
very
do that
quickly
while other
grab a
people
Gatorade.
read.
I need
Yeah.
to be.
All right. Yeah, me
Alright.
too.
Bathroom break. Excellent. Ugh. Have you ever had a project that you're like, okay, and I'm getting back into it, and then you open it up and you're like, oh, yeah, where's that? And then you look and you're about to make a mark or a word or anything, and you're like, executive
Yes.
Executive function disorder or whatever it's called. You're like,
Yeah.
ah, yeah.
Yup.
Right now with warmth, actually, I'm looking at this and I'm like, what? How do I animate again? What's this passion? I don't know what passion is anymore. Okay. Let's see. I
Yeah.
think I have an idea of how I'm gonna do it, but it's not easy. I might work on it tomorrow, but gonna try to
When
animate
you're
a
all
little bit.
fresh.
Yeah, that's also nice focusing on the reading tonight.
Yeah.
It's good for humors, yes. Oh my gosh. That Stag's Dracula impression was perfect though. I can't top
It was.
I
I was like,
can't.
whoa.
Oh gosh.
Woo, woo.
Ooh, oh man. I didn't realize that was so over the top dramatic, like all of the people turning to him and being like, "We're crossing our chest for you. You're dead, man."
So, like, I had a feeling that it was that dramatic because I've seen a lot of people post, like, because I haven't actually read it, but I've seen a lot of people post, like, commentary about it where they're like, these two are, like, so crazy. This story is so, like, the guy talks all, like, posh and everything, but it's just, like, it can be dumbed down to, like, this crazy night. And so like blah blah blah, yeah, like all the drama and the everything is just like definitely over the top, and it's very funny.
It is. It's like and the red pepper dishes. Like every time he brings up red pepper, I'm like,
oh my god,
paprika? Red pepper? Buddy, you got a thing for
I know, that's what I was thinking too, but it also made me hungry for like red
Oh my
peppers.
Yeah. Red pepper dishes. He's got a point though. He's got a point.
He does. I would keep
Absolutely.
talking about a red pepper dish if I had one like out and about. I would keep talking about it. I'd be like, man, I want to go and eat that red pepper stuff.
Yeah. It's also like the classic oh
Alright, I'm back.
gosh.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello.
Whoa,
With the
hello.
spices. It's all about the spices.
I'm back.
Hello. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone came back.
Yay!
Alright.
Laios,
Are we on chapter 2 now?
Laios versus Dracula.
No,
Oh, I think we're
gonna
moving.
be- we might
The
move
stag.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
posted the next
gonna be hard to
the
fix.
next
Yeah.
fiction.
Right.
Reading Dracula is like a once a day kind of thing.
Yeah. We're still waiting for Stag though.
Who requested
Yeah.
that? Was that Alien?
Oh, yeah, Alien requested
yes.
Dracula. Yes.
We hope you like that, Alien.
Yeah. We hope
Mhm.
that I hope specifically that it was read okay.
Yeah, you did good. You don't need an accent to read Dracula.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's
it
fine.
just enhances the experience.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
It was kind of hard to not to crack up to
Yeah.
last.
Burger.
Yeah.
Burger. I got stuck on that word if you couldn't tell. I was not expecting Burger to make an appearance. I was just like, huh.
American burger.
See, I was glad that I went last because I would not have known how to pronounce crash or whatever without you saying it first.
Oh,
Kreish.
yeah. Kalish. Kalish? Yeah,
Kleish.
I believe it's Kalish.
Kleish.
I'll say it confidently so that you believe me too.
That's what I did.
Hey, there we go. That was really fun. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
realize Dracula was such a fun little tale. Again, just like the everyone turning to him and like crossing their chests, being like, "You're dead, man."
Like really
You think
hyping up that
after
he's
the
going into
fourth
like this
person, he would
awful
stop.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's so
Just
funny.
be like, actually, I'm good. I'm gonna actually go the other way.
Exactly.
He's just like, maybe they're just being a little goofy, silly. I should keep doing what I'm doing. It's just
No survival skills.
Intelligent
no,
person.
absolutely none.
No, none. Oh my gosh. I think this will probably be the last one we read tonight. Yes?
Oh no,
Few
but
hundred
Corey, and I'll take it to read anything.
Dracula?
Oh,
Wait, which
no,
one do we
no,
want to
no,
read
no,
next?
no, no. Fihar Duvek, the one that we're gonna read next. I sent it in the voice chat.
Oh, okay. This is the one we
Yeah,
could
yeah,
all
yeah.
read together. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's 18,000 words altogether, so I think it's a good last one.
Oh, yeah.
18,000?
Karen's reading the chapter. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
between
He was
5
really right.
chapters.
Oh, okay.
Oh, don't
Okay.
worry, Lex. We're gonna be the whole thing to make up for it.
Oh, we're gonna read
kidding,
the
I'm
whole
kidding.
thing?
Yeah, I think so. I think we can make it work. So what you do is you read really fast. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Speed read. Well, it's not as late for me, so I'm always like, yeah, I can do it.
I mean, I feel pretty good.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
think
good too.
reading
Yay.
Dracula woke me up.
Yeah, I know. You really had to like open your eyes for that one and be like, okay, what are the words on this page?
What is happening?
Prodigious? Prodigious? Oh,
Exactly.
got it. Yeah, it is prodigious. Thank you.
Prodigious, yeah.
Fun to read purple prose like that, though. I feel like I rarely get to do so.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like more recent, because like, so I listen, for people who don't know, I listen to literal, like, the only thing I listen to nowadays is book reviews on YouTube. And so, like, a lot of the more recent books they definitely just kind of cut to the chase. And it is kind of like, I don't know if it's like if I would call it like a problem, because it's kind of just like, a writing style in general that's more widespread nowadays, but like people do just kind of focus on dialogue more now. And so like definitely reading something like Dracula, where it was just like all these descriptions and like it really like set the scene really well. And like even though it was kind of more of a difficult read, especially reading aloud when we're not really familiar with the text, I feel like it was kind of like a breath of fresh air after especially all the stuff that I listen to.
Yeah. Oh, that is great. And honestly, diving into these always makes me more inspired to write more eloquently.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's a good way
I
to
like
yeah.
eloquent.
some
I like the eloquent.
breath.
Exactly. Yeah. I definitely like that part as well.
And back.
Yay!
Hi.
Yay, welcome back.
Speaking of that, I wanted to say, like, even in your crack fix, honey, you are really good at like painting the picture of like the descriptions of the areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Aw, thanks.
Oh man.
Because like in general, I just think it's really funny if like a crack fic is like written seriously. I think that's
Yeah.
the funniest thing
Yeah,
ever.
Oh man. I was
I
muted,
think
but I
all
was
I think
cracking
all
up the whole
fics should be
time.
written well.
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely.
Mhm.
And I like that they were still in character.
It's the
That-
funniest thing to me when
Yeah.
like everything is like true to
And-
themselves and like it
Yeah.
just is the humor comes naturally
Yeah,
rather than
and
coming from
Both
like how
Dio and Adam Sandler, they have like very different motivations and things they want in life, which is funny.
Famous last bits
But
of
very
dialogue.
similar powers.
yeah, it was so good.
Yeah. Thank you for requesting that fic, Lux.
Yeah, thank you for making me do that.
Okay, so here's the funny thing too. Me and Honey like hardly spoke to each other back then.
Yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah,
It just like came out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, sure, man. I'll do this.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all enjoyed it, and Honey, you enjoyed writing it. But yeah, who shall start This
Ooh, that's right. Let's see.
So-
Stag's gonna. Oh yeah, go ahead, Stag.
So I mentioned I wanted to read chapter 3, one because it's the longest, and two because it has the most Romulan in it. And it's like I just decided I'm going to bear the burden of that. So what order do we want to go in? Who wants to start this off?
Hmm.
Who wants to do 2, and who wants to do 3, 4, and 5?
ooh.
I think the people who haven't read for a bit should start so that it gives the people who just read a little bit of a
Yeah, I agree.
voice break. And so that means I'll write like our order too in our
Oh,
chat
okay,
so that we
yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I could take chapter 4 so that could maybe take chapter 5 since read a little bit more than I did for Dracula.
Okay,
Yeah.
I volunteer to be one of the first two. Who wants to do it with me? Tori or
Yeah,
Al?
I'll take chapter 5.
Oh, Corey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Huh?
Do either
Oh,
of you want?
I do
Go ahead,
either of
Lex.
y'all feel like
mean-
reading here?
Yeah, I could read. I
D-
could read a chapter since I haven't done it yet.
Yay,
Yeah,
this
I
is a
yeah.
stag's pick. I will say, I probably did this during the other Star Trek fic. I do, I did read Star Trek, but I'm probably still gonna mispronounce things, including like even easy names. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm probably making someone angry right now.
I'm
yeah,
sure
that
it's
was good.
fine.
I like that list, honey bee, night honey
Thanks.
bee.
The only thing I will say is that Eleanor McCoy is meant to have a southern accent. Georgia specifically, but I don't know the details of
Oh.
Georgian accent. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do
that's fine.
subtleties in different accents.
I
I'm
wish-
probably not gonna do accents if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's fine.
I wish I could take power of
What?
doing accents well.
My power.
My power.
Yeah.
Secret power.
Can't do much of a southern accent, even though I was
Yeah,
from Texas.
ooh. Owl, you can take my spot, actually. Can you edit that, honey? Owl can have chapter 5. I will do listening to them. Thanks,
I was just like, how's there? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Perfect. Gracias.
Okay. Corey, would you? I guess Honey put you first.
Right.
You had a good stopping point in Dark Souls.
I can
Um,
swap it.
I can
Yeah, I
also
can
go
stop
first. if
here.
you want me to.
Oh, if not, I could always swap with you. I could be the. If I stumble, everyone can
Yeah.
correct me.
This is chapter 3.
1.
Oh, chapter
Yeah.
1. Okay.
It's right above honey's list for
Yeah, I can do chapter 1.
Yippee! Okay, let me go to the start where there's all the good stuff at the top, like Archive 1. There's
I
no
like
archive.
this one. It's emotionally intense.
Oh boy, just what I need on a Friday
Also,
night.
I don't know if I can pronounce stuff in your language, Stag. You might need to help me with that.
I
Like Harduvek.
Hard to yeah, whatever. Close
Mhm.
enough. It works. It means House Clan Duvik.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. All right. Lieutenant Commander Eleanora McCoy coughed awake, smoke filled engineering, and she could vaguely make out the sounds of fellow officers. Her head felt like it was swimming in syrup. Groaning, she carefully stood, using a console to steady herself. Her head was pounding and blood matted her hair. Must have hit the console on the way down. Ignoring the blurred vision, she took note of the state of the room. The emergency lights were on, fires were being put out. Bodies of unconscious and likely dead officers littered parts of the floor. Those that were still alive rushed about, trying to assess the damage and make repairs. The fight with the pirates had taken its toll. She must not have been out for that long. The medical teams had not arrived yet, and she couldn't find the medic that normally stayed in engineering. Eleonora needed to move. There was much to repair. No doubt much of it would need to be repaired at a station. They should be near the outpost. They could call for aid. Oh yes, the flight that happened to be near the Romulan neutral zone. The pirates in question called themselves the Zontac. Little was known about the Zontac except being a species of Star Empire. Typically, from what intelligence suggested, they targeted Romulan outposts and ships. Why then had they decided to attack Federation outposts was a mystery. It was unknown if the Zontac had dealings with the Orions or the Klingons, or if those particular Zontac worked for Romulans. Whatever the case, the fight seemed to be over. At least, that was what Eleonora could gauge. The Griffin was at present intact and not being harassed further, nor were there any boarding parties. But should help have not arrived by now? Wasn't there another ship on the way? If they were still near the outposts. Anxiety clawed at her. There were too many questions. If the worst was true, no, she needed to focus on repairs and contacting the bridge. She could assess the situation then. Rapport. A harsh cough racked her body in protest. Her throat sore and dried from the smoke. Report. Commander McCoy. The two voices responded. A disheveled ensign, a young albino Denobulan woman named Denal, and a medical lieutenant from a plant-like species named Laos ran over. Are you all right, sir? Denal asked while Laos took out a medical tricorder. Let Laos worry about that, ensign. What are the damages? We took heavy damages from the flight, sir. Life support is operational, but environmental systems are malfunctioning. Filtration systems are down on several decks. Our communication and impulse engines are down, and the warp drive was damaged when our nacelle was ripped off. Ripped off? Eleanor demanded. Yes, sir. The Zontac had ignited this plasma trail near it, ripping it off and throwing us into the zone. It also caused most of the... Eleonora held up a hand to stop Denal. Flow down into the zone. They were drifting and they were... gods know. Denal nodded nervous. Yes, sir, we were thrown quite deep into it. Likely we'll enter Romulan space in a few days. Do we have weapons and shields? No, sir, they were knocked out in the blast, too. Could this get any worse? They were sitting ducks. It was doubtful they could fix everything before they reached Romulan territory. More so before a patrol showed up. There was no telling how the Romulans would perceive this accidental violation. Eleanor licked her lips anxiously. Can we contact the bridge? Yes, sir. A lieutenant sheriff has been keeping them upgraded on damages and repair progress. This was good news. Eleanor trusted Sharif to keep things under control. He was her assistant chief engineer. She had been planning to recommend him for promotion. He would have made a fine chief engineer for any ship. Now it seemed like he would never see that opportunity. She sighed in mixed relief and loss. Good louse. Will the medical teams be able to make it up here soon? I think it would be Z lowered the tricorder. If it weren't for the brightened orange glow of Zur skin, Eleonora would have thought Z were oddly calm. I'm afraid medical is spread thin, sir. They are trying to get teams over here and up to the bridge. But between the mess in the halls, sickbay, and damages, it will take some time. I suppose that was to be expected. How long was I out? Roughly 30 minutes. Your head took quite a hit. Light bleeding, nothing that can't be taken care of once we get better equipment here. A few first and 32nd degree burns. Nothing too concerning given the circumstances. Thank you, Laos. If that is all, go attend to the others. Laos bowed and left. Eleanor turned back to Dinal. Where is Shariv? I am right here, Commander, Lieutenant Shariv. You're all around, typical Vulcan. Stepped out of the smoke. He handed over a pad. Has Ensign Dinal filled you with the situation? Eleanor took the pad. Would that be like PADD? Or just say pad?
Just say pad.
Okay. She took the pad with a grateful nod. Mostly, how close are we to Romulan space? We will have drifted into Romulan space within the next 3 days and 6 hours. Damn. Any sign of Romulan patrols? No, sir. Our sensor systems are malfunctioning. Of course. She read the report. Denal had done a thorough job of fitting her in. It was all the Ensign had said now, but she realized what loss meant. The hull was breached on several decks. Most were contained, but some would have medical teams taking longer routes, and the nacelle was indeed missing. The other damages were extensive and confirmed her fears. They could not repair all of this themselves. They would need a station aid, and that was not an option. Long-range communications were shut down, but with as close to Romulan space as they were, it would be of no use. 3 days at least gave them time to heal and consider their options. This was assuming no Romulans entered the zone to investigate the Griffin. They would have that excuse. Ensign Denell, go help with filtration and environmental repairs. We need to make sure all life support systems stay stable. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Sharif, how likely do you think it is we may encounter Romulans earlier than 3 days? Logic suggests a roughly 75% chance. While it is a violation of the treaty, they would have the right to investigate the presence of a Starfleet vessel. However, they may prefer to wait for us to drift into their space. In either case, neither entrance into the zone would be a true violation. Ours was accidental and theirs investigative. About what I was thinking, then, she hummed. Still pretty high, if so, very well. If you go help with the engine repairs, I'll handle contacting the bridge from now on. Yes, sir. Eleanor sighed and made for the nearest intercom. Uncertainty clawed at her insides and tried to calm herself. Now was not the time to lose grips on herself. Damages had to be dealt with and plans made. What plans could be made from this? They were completely at the mercy of the Romulans. Damn pirates. Little was known about the Romulans. Skilled, brutal warriors. An ever-expansive empire, territorial, secretive. No one in the UFP had ever seen a Romulan. There was still little on their languages. She couldn't help but wonder what the UFP would have done if the rules were swapped. If a heavily damaged bird of prey drifted into Federation space, surely they wouldn't be needlessly destroyed or imprisoned. The Federation would want to study the ship and its technology, learn all they could from once unknown enemies, but Eleonora hoped the crew could be spared, released back into the Empire once they were processed and questioned. There would no doubt be many UFP who would see such a move as overly risky, believing the Romulans would plant spies and steal Federation secrets. The Romulans were known for spying, and the Federation had their own channels. The Federation could be narrow-minded for all its acceptance of cultures and desiring peace. Many still hated the Romulans for existing. But what ifs wouldn't help here? This wasn't the situation. Eleanor could not say she was eager to meet the Romulans, but she could hold out hope. The Romulans were an intelligent species capable of reason just like them. They would not have agreed to the treaty otherwise. McCoy to the bridge. How are things up there? She asked upon reaching the intercom. Yvette here. Glad to hear you're all right, the captain responded. A calm but weary tone laced his words. We took a lot of damage, helm's no longer responding, and not it do us any good with warp and impulse down. Too casually, but mostly just injured up here. Anything to report? I'm sure Sharif has filled you on most of it, so I'll keep it brief. We're working to keep life support and environmental systems stable. Filtration systems should be back to mostly functional within the hour. We can get the rest of breaches patched within 2 days, assuming nothing else blows. Eleanor paused. They should at least have most of the remaining breaches patched in that case. As for warp impulse weapons and shields, we need a repair station for those. And if we could get weapons and shields back online, I doubt they'd do as much good. I don't think antagonizing the Romulans would be much help. No, I suppose not. There was a slight smile in his voice and a sigh. We'll just have to weigh our options until then. Has medical arrived in engineering? No, sir. Lieutenant Loss has said it will be a while before they can reach either of us. From the damage report, I can see why. Very well. Continue keeping the ship functional for now. I want senior staff to report to the briefing room once the halls have cleared and more personnel have been tended to in 30 hours, if nothing else. Understood, Captain. Keep me updated. Yvette out. Eleanor let her hand fall and took in the mess that was engineering, watching as her fellow officers ran about. Were there any plans that could be made? Destroying the Griffin was an option, but to throw away so many lives before they knew about how the Romulans would respond. They should at least try dialogue first. Hold up, I'm going to take a sip.
Sippy sip.
Talk to the Romulans, Zinir demanded, glaring her down. We are their enemies. Why the hell would they want to talk to us, much less grant us mercy? Yeah, that was about how she expected that suggestion to go. She held his gaze and sat straighter. We have no idea how they would respond. Making assumptions based on war times almost 100 years ago in the past will not help us. It's not like this was a purposeful violation, the chief of science and arboreal Zindi named Dala pointed out. And given our blight was caused by the Zontak, a species said to attack the Romulans, surely the Romulans would be more open? And how do we know those Zontak weren't working for them? Sinir countered. Who's to say they care about distinctions? We would still be a prize for them. The Haitian faced Yvette. Captain, we cannot just let the Federation intel fall into Romulan's hands by taking the chance that they'll be merciful this once. No, we can't, Yvette agreed, but continued to weigh her options. Sinir narrowed his eyes. Don't tell me you're considering this. You know, I don't like to brush aside alternatives, if there is one. Doctor, what are your thoughts on all this? So far, their Andorian CMO hadn't said much. It was clear that he didn't like any of what he was saying. Captain Commander, I trust the Romulans about as much as you do. They should not be allowed near Federation secrets. However, I concede that I'd rather not see this crew die if there's another way. I will stay on the defensive. If all else fails, we blow up the ship and perhaps take some Romulans with us. Captain, if it's our data we need to keep from them the most, Commander Sinir and I could possibly rig a mass data wipe, Eleanor offered, agreeing with the main concern. The most valuable thing the Romulans would get in that case being the Griffin herself. Blame it on the damages the zone tech caused. Yvette hummed and nodded, glancing at his first officer. What do you say, Sinir? I say if we weren't in danger before, we would be then. The Romulans would know it was us. If they've dealt with the Zontak before, they wouldn't know. Our story's unlikely. We're better off blowing up the ship and ensuring they get nothing. Eleonora pursed her lips together. Arguments between her and the commander were common, and they normally tolerated each other. This was not one of those occasions. It should have been expected. Sinir was childhood friends with the Styles. She supposed that family's infamous hatred for the Romulans rubbed it off on the commander. Sala interjected, skeptical of the dismissal. We know little about the Zontak and can affect Romulan tech. How do we know such things don't happen between them? Volatile plasma torpedo interactions like that could at least cause corruptions. With the other damages, maybe, Sinir interrupted with a quiet hiss. But a mass data wipe? Even our engineers should know how unlikely that is. She had to admit that was true. Then we could cause a spreading corruption. If a mass data wipe wasn't likely, corruption was, assuming a ship was damaged in the right places. A particularly nasty one would delete some of our data, prevent them from gaining the full picture. Sinir growled, standing halfway and slamming his hands down. Extended claws dug into the table. They would still have pieces of the data. Given enough time, they could restore some of it. Eleanor stood to level their gaze, her temper coming to a boil. We can't just jump to self-destructions, not when there are lives on the line. Lives on the line regardless. Yvette held out an arm. That's enough, sir. Sit back down. We cannot go fighting amongst ourselves. Not now, Yvette rubbed his eyes. We don't have a lot of time. Whatever we do, we have to set it up quickly. Do we have any other possible options? We could focus on getting long range backup. Dalla started with a frown and tried contacting one of the neutral zone inhabitants. There is one problem. That is, the neutral zone inhabitants don't exactly like us or the Romulans. Many of the spacefaring find it unfair that they were forced into neutrality and claim it limits opportunity. I've heard some have allegiances, the CMO added. Lieutenant Louse species, for example. Louse species, a group of sentient plants called the Synot. Varying in color with lovely petals and luminescence, and the occasional thorns and branches. An RNZ species whose system just barely touched Romulan space. Laus had once warned that a few of them expressed interest in joining the Empire while others vied to stay neutral. If the wrong group picked up the Griffin, there was a chance they would tow them into Romulan space. Yes, I've heard Zem talk about their home. Yvette's fingers tapped on the table. He thought of the other species the Federation knew about, if any had a UFP allegiance. Even then, it's a risky gamble, too risky. Even simply drifting held the risk of an unfriendly encounter. He breathed deeply before coming to some decision. We will try talking to the Romulans. He stopped Sinir from interrupting, but I want to be prepared for when or if things go south. McCoy, Sinir, I want you to work together on preparing that corruption spread and also on getting the self-destruct back up. One can be a fallback to the other depending on how things go. Understood? Eleonora let herself relax and nodded. Sinir sighed in defeat, but could accept this compromise in the very least. Understood, sir. Good. Commander Dalla, help with the corruption spread if you can. Otherwise, focus on communications. Yes, sir. Doctor, status on sickbay. Cramped and spread thin, but we are able to hear most of the remaining crew. I don't want to see those numbers go down any further. 250. They had started with a crew of 250. Now they were down to an estimate of 150, with still many left uncertain. One of them being their chief navigator. Nor do I. Just keep doing what you can. Let's get to work. You're all dismissed. This is foolish, Sneer hissed on the way back to engineering. Eleanor rolled her eyes and opted to ignore him. Thankfully, he didn't say much beyond that. There were many that found it odd an engineer would care so much about individual lives. This wasn't the first time she had been concerned with such. Granted, the stakes weren't so high in those moments, nor was she always as vocal about it. An engineer's duty was to the ship first, as well as a commander's, full or lieutenant. One had to learn to deal with sacrifice if they wanted to command. But there were too many unknowns here. Too many to warrant rushing into destruction. Eleonora didn't want UFP data or the Griffin to fall into enemy hands so much as Sinir did. Her stomach churned at the thought of the Griffin being dissected. Perhaps it was the McCoy's history in the medical field. Many of them became doctors even now, be it in Starfleet or not. Perhaps it was the doctor's concern that rubbed off on her. She did not have more medical know-how than was expected of an engineer. Not enough to qualify as a doctor, nurse, or otherwise. But it was useful. It was a small surprise her wanting to go into engineering instead of medical. Not a big one, nor an unwelcome one. She had more knack for machines than medicine, normally the one to fix the farm equipment. She thought of what her younger brother Donovan had said. What's an engineer but a doctor for machines? Eleanor smiled. Sally, the rant the situation will inspire out of Dad. Dear gods. He always hated space, disliked watching members of the McCoys join Starfleet, especially seeing his only 3 children do so. He'll about have a heart attack, all right. Be more insistent that I stay on the farm. She swallowed, anxiety coiling around her once more. Will I even get to see them again?
Wow.
Nice.
Oh, that was
All right.
awesome.
Chapter 1. Nicely done,
Oh, yeah.
Corey.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
thanks.
my gosh. Yeah, you have a really
Yeah.
nice reading voice. And you kept up with all, like, pronouncing everything and, like, your cadence. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Thank-
I
thanks,
like,
I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I like
But,
listening.
oh, thanks. But I don't think I can
Yeah.
read anymore, though. My voice is wiped out.
Oh, that's
That's
okay.
right.
You finished your chapter.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, Corey, if you keep
Right.
reading with us, if there's any time, it doesn't have to be like you don't have to read like a whole chapter. You could just like yeah play the duck sound and
Yeah.
go ahead and switch off.
Yeah. That's okay. I like challenging myself.
Oh, that's good.
Hmm.
Yay! I like challenges too.
Yeah, I like the story so far. It's pretty interesting. It's,
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever watched Star Trek, Corey?
um, I haven't seen that much of it, but I know like the basic plot is that takes place in the future, and Earth, a bunch of planets are in like a peaceful spacefaring civilization, and they go to other planet. They explore the galaxies and other planets, and like try to be peaceful.
Basically.
Yeah.
But not everyone is peaceful to them back. Like the Romulans.
Yeah. Of course. But then, yeah, I like the idea of them like trying to meet new alien species and like try to find things they have in common.
Hmm.
Oh, I just read your notes. Eliza species is an OC
Mhm.
species. That's cool.
Yeah.
Laos was originally a Creevney named Imlu, but then I decided I didn't like the depiction of the Creevney for several personal reasons, so I removed them and replaced them with kind of a throwaway OC species.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
For a
like
throwaway
yeah.
species, I
I
love the
don't
species.
yeah, I don't know if like I'm sure probably noticed that since she read this
Mm-hmm.
when Laos was in Lu.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of a shock that was to you.
Bit of surprise, but not too bad.
Also, I thought it was interesting that the main character uses like she, her pronouns, but people call her sir.
That's kind of just how it goes in the military and stuff. Like that's how it is in Star Trek and I guess military and even a lot of formal situations where they'll
Really?
use sir. Yeah, they'll just use sir as like a
Use
gender neutral thing.
sir for all pronouns.
Yes.
Interesting. I have not heard of that before. I didn't know that was a thing until now.
You know, I think I knew that was a thing. I think the gender neutral spelling of Sir is SYR in like I'm not sure what era, but I think I don't know before like when Sir had a gender neutral meaning. I think that's also historical.
Interesting. Like
Oh,
that
interesting.
is
Yeah.
interesting, but in the
Yeah,
Star
I've
Trek,
never heard of it being spelled like that before.
yeah, me neither. Like in Star Trek, all the captions and stuff show it as the SIR. So
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
okay. So that's interesting fact. Oh.
Yeah, thank
So,
you.
Ow! Ow!
so David McCoy is a woman in
no,
this. Oh,
no,
right. Oh,
Ele-
I'm sorry. I got that confused when I read
no,
them.
David. David got turned into a Romulan. Like
Oh, okay.
the thing about Eleonora is that she's the only one who's not had a canonical appearance at all. on screen. David McCoy has in
Oh.
one of the movies. And of course,
Mhm.
Eleonora is technically an apocryphal name for Leonard's mother. So, but Doc and I just decided, hey, we like Eleonora the best out of the names, so we went with that.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's it.
Yes.
So, are you ready for me to talk?
Oh yeah.
For me to
The
read?
cameraman gets their turn.
Yeah, oh, if anyone needs to take a break, let me know. And we could pause for a
Yeah.
second and then,
I'm gonna go get some water.
okay.
I'll
Please.
be right back.
We pause.
Uh,
In the
I didn't.
meantime, I make
I
all
didn't.
the guitars.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
This is
didn't.
fun.
Like, I didn't put it in the tags or anything because it's kind of like if you're reading a fic and it's Star Trek and it involves the Romulans in a pre-TOS era, it's like you should probably assume canonical typical racism right off the bat. So I didn't tag
Yeah.
it because like this is just par for the course. But like chapter 2 has the Romulans appear, so I will give a bit of a warning that it is definitely kind of just as prominent here as it was with Sneer.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's like the same kind of deal as you play Baldur's Gate. Hey, you play the Drow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Ooh. I'm looking forward to hearing Owl read as well.
Thank you.
That's right.
I
Ooh.
I've never seen Star Trek. I've only heard of it, and I haven't I don't know anything about it, so
Mhm.
I might say things wrong.
That's fine.
No
Like,
worries.
Yeah, same.
I feel like
Like-
you'd be.
Okay, I'm back.
Hi.
Hey.
hello.
If you like my perspective, you'll probably like it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Also, I was wondering, is the Romulans, are they the same species as your Bloodborne OC?
No.
Oh,
Wait, which Bloodborne OC?
oh,
Which one?
I forget his
Is it
name, but
Al?
he's like, yeah.
Oh, Alathasis is from an OC species for Bloodborne.
Oh,
Or are you talking about Tianahos?
I thought they were the same species.
No.
Sorry, I'm getting your OCs mixed up.
The Romulans are a cousin species of the Vulcans.
Oh, okay.
Ah. Diana hosts this one then?
Tianahos is half Romulan.
Romulan? So Romulans, are they canon species or OC species?
Romulans are canon.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got confused.
It's okay. Like, if any clarity is needed or any help with pronunciations, don't be afraid to ask me in the middle of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have watched most of Star Trek. I went on a complete binge watch during 2022.
Whoa.
Yeah, I can see.
Ooh.
It wait, speaking
Yeah.
of, when'd you write this?
And I write what? It's BR.
Yes.
Well, let's see. When does it say? It says it was published February 17th, 2023, and it was completed April 16th, 2024.
Oh, it just turned 2 years old.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Wow.
uh,
Nice.
hold on, Kittles, I'm Alan. I'll be right back. 1 second. My children need me.
Mm-hmm.
You're
I actually think I can give y'all the actual date when I tried when I first tried to write this, because the very first chapter went through 2 different versions. Like the how do I spell? I forgot. Griffin is used in all these chapter names, and I have somehow forgotten how to spell Griffin.
Oh yeah, it's spelled with a PH.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, G.
Griffin. Just kidding.
Oh.
Sorry.
I will say this fic was planned since like 2022. Like apparently my first mention of it that I can get just from looking up Griffin is in like September of 2022. So this has been a series in the work for a long time. When did I
Oh,
start
nice.
this? Where is the freaking file? There it is, I think. Where is the file that I shared with Doc? I don't remember. There's a piece of it when I was starting it. Because I started it before I started. I started it before I started Fihar.
Yeah.
Started the first chapter of Fihar. Because what was supposed to happen is that the Romulans were supposed to appear in the first chapter.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Oh.
Went through quite a bit of change.
Yeah, but there's a good setup
Mm-hmm.
to it over, I think.
Fuck is this?
Yeah. Don't even-
That's not it. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, a Acacian is basically an anthropomorphic cat.
Ah, that's cute.
And I
They
think,
have furries in Star Trek.
yes, basically. And I think Sneer is supposed to be a cheetah?
Oh, nice.
Like, I don't remember what I originally envisioned him as. He's Acacian, that much I know. I don't remember what type of cat I made him. Hello.
Welcome back.
I am back. I didn't want to interrupt, but that was my indication.
The intro sound.
Yes. Okay. Sorry I interrupted. What are y'all talking about?
The beginning of this,
Oh,
when I started doing this fic,
Oh.
I'm trying to find the document where I started this, because I'm pretty sure I shared it with Doc here somewhere. But I forgot. Oh, I remembered that I'm supposed to make Deanna host intersex.
hmm.
This has not appeared yet. What is this document? I have so many memes.
I'm so sorry.
Common problem.
Like, I'm not
Oh,
even looking for the document in my files. I could probably find it a lot easier. There.
let's see in interesting thing here.
Ooh.
Yeah, her. Put a link in the VC chat. Well, I don't really know what it is without signing up, I guess.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I'll find it later.
Okay. It's always nice to have good alternatives. To,
Yeah, I'll certainly keep that in mind.
Okay, I'm ready to go whenever y'all are.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's do
Okay, we're on chapter 2 now. Let me switch
it. Mm-hmm.
here. There we go. Chapter 2, A Griffin's Capture. Summary, the Romulans show up and shit's hits the fan. There are your notes. Chief Engineer's log. Start date. That number. We're 2 days into drifting, and so far, No early Romulan encounter. Life support and all its related systems are stable. Most of the hull
Ooh,
breaches have
excuse
been
me.
sealed. Let's see.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Sealed off. Sensors are back online, mostly, and the injured are being cared for. Eleanor tried to mask the tiredness weighing heavily on her mind, handed the report back to Danelle. The self-destruct system was nearly repaired. Likely would be before the corruption spread was ready. Near was purposely slowing its completion. Eleanor had been attempting to slow the repairs to the self-destruct out of spite, but refrained. Getting petty shows help won't help. Denali seemed to not notice her mood, or at least not make it a point. The whole ship was tense, especially engineering. From the side, did notice Laws briefly glance her way. Couldn't hide from the medical officer, of course. They didn't bring it to attention and continued monitoring the rest of engineering. Sirs, the self-destruct is back online and ready to be armed should we need it, Sheriff informed Eleanor and Sinner an hour later. Good. Now we'll be ready for when things go south, Sinner nodded at him. Thank you, Lieutenant. Now we can focus on the spread. Eleanor brought up its progress. Have it ready in the next 5 hours, if not 4. Commander's frown was punctuated by the flick of his tail. Right, the spread. Sheriff piped up, then. Commanders, if I may, we are 16 hours and 45 minutes from Ambulance Base. Logic suggests the likelihood of an early encounter has increased to 85%. That is assuming. Eleanor held up a hand. That no RNZ species finds us. We are aware, Lieutenant, said, understanding but not wanting to be reminded of how increasingly dire the situation grows. Your concern is noted. Need to work quickly. Can you continue helping with calculating its speed and strength? The Riff bowed and left. Nier growled quietly. Remind me why we're bothering with this? You heard the captain. One can be a fallback to another. Even if we do end up going for the destruct, who's to say it won't fail? Another flick of the tail. Suppose that is a risk. Let's get back to work. Lenora resisted the urge to punch the data pad as yet another fault in the code showed itself like an unseen snake that has crawled its way into the peach tree. The data wipe was proving to be more of a pain than anticipated. It was unstable, unpredictable. It could very well end all. It targeted the wrong systems. If it was possible to strangle code, Eleanor would have done so. Near too, looked ready to tear into something. The ship's computer had taken more of a beating than first thought. This shouldn't be taking this long. At least, that was their reasoning. The added stress impounded their mistakes. And much like an unseen snake in a peach tree, sometimes there was more than just one of them. Sometimes a snapping turtle had wandered up unannounced and bit your ankle unprovoked, startling you just as the ship's red alert did its officer. Except this time, there was a reason. Near rushed for the nearest comm unit. The Griffin had gotten long-range sensors partially back, only to monitor the space around them. They still had 12 hours before entering Romulan space. Near to the bridge, what's happening? But nothing was ever completely smooth sailing, or in this case drifting, was it? The Romulans have come to us. 3 ships just dropped out of warp. You and McCoy better have that spread done. It was a sorry sight. Drifting belly up, leaking plasma, bruised. What was assumed to be the nacelle floated further out. Their outpost had detected the battle with the Zontac. Why the troublesome species attacked the UFP was a mystery to them. There were rumors, of course, rumors that were being investigated by the Tal'Shir. That was not Commander Nope.
Commander Panjera Ireteg Teduvek.
Now, everyone, imagine that whenever I read that. Concerning the UFP ship slowly moving toward the Empire. What?
Your best.
Okay, fine, I will try. In the days that followed the ship's slow crawl through the outmarches, the Senate had gone mad, at least according to his older brother. His own tax involvement made matters worse. The Senate had been split on how to handle the situation. This was not a violation of the treaty. There would be no war. They had the right to enter the outmarches to claim the vessel. Some called to wait for it to fully enter their space. Others counted that risk neutral or worse, the UFP sympathetic outmarch species. Investigating. Comment, come here, stop now, one please. That raised the argument of sending the closest empire, pledged peoples to bring it in. This was also waved off. The three closest had risk. One was in political chaos with the UFP sympathizers of their species. The second, experiencing a plague. The third tended to be overeager. It was decided to wait until it drifted closer before sending a scout team. Specifically, 2 scouts and a dreadnought. His dreadnought. He questioned if that was necessary. Status on that ship? Centurion Theothan, his second older brother, responded. Life support functioning. Several hull breaches. Weapon system inoperable. Shields inoperable. Propulsion systems inoperable. The broken songbird, Mulgane circling above it. Fungair's frown deepened. Life sign? 140 alive. Some of them faint, most stable. The question of how many losses that ship suffered snuck into his mind. It was a fairly small ship. It didn't seem like a combatant. The fact it had survived was admirable. Resilient little ship and crew. He prayed no more lives would be lost. Cave. The majority are Terrans, but I'm reading a mix of species. Theothan sneered, pulling back from the readings as if insulted, including a synop. Was a synop? No, perhaps this was not much of a surprise. The species was in a political struggle between those that swore loyalty to the Empire, the UFP sympathizers, and those that wished neutrality. Some must have escaped to Federation space just as many traveled into the Star Empire. Given the Senate's status, this runaway would have to be dealt with through their government. They demanded this one back. It was doubtful Starfleet officers would allow it. Must things be complicated already? Elements guided him. But duty and procedure had to be followed. Engineer opened his mouth to order a hail. Commander, Sub-Commander, may I hear this one?
Need help?
Yes.
Let's see if I can remember how to pronounce this. Kiras e Keneserum Tia Chironsala.
Iris spoke up. Ship is hailing us. How he heard of Federation diplomacy. The debates over whether it was a facade of truth. An amused smile tried to form, but he raised an eyebrow and stood straighter. Put them on, and opened an eavesdrop channel to the other commanders. A pale face appeared on the screen. Terran, most likely. Weary but curious eyes met his. That curiosity quickly melted into engineer once again. Keep him smiling in amusement. He did, however, allow a cautious sympathy. Terran vessel. I am Commander Duvek of the Stormhawk. We detected your fight with the Zontac and subsequent drift through the outmarches. This is purely investigative. As there is no purposeful violation, you will not be harmed. There is no cause for harm. Terran snapped out of his shock then. He eyed Pangier. but there was a relief in posture. This is Captain Yvette of the USS Griffin. We understand the purpose of this investigation and permit it. You will not receive hostility on our end, although we do have questions. That what will happen to your crew and ship, no doubt, engineers. Pleased to see they were cooperating thus far. And this was accidental, consequence of a fight that will, with a frankly troublesome species, you will not be harmed or detained. You will be towed to Romulus, you and your crew process. Then you will all be sent back to your space via civilian carriers. And the Griffin? You will understand that our scientists will want to study it. It will be kept. More than just scientists, really. The whole Senate and Patriot will be eager to learn what the Federation secrets the ship might hold. And with the Tashiar channels, there was much they did not know, assuming the Tashiar was not withholding. Brett's stature changed, rigid. Tangier expected reactions. Regardless, worry not at him. These were innocent people. Did not want to hurt them if necessary. I and the other commanders will put together small boarding parties, merely to monitor the crew and assess damages, I assure you. Procedure demands. Very well, I will inform my crew. Tangier, much to his brother's chagrin, decided to lead the boarding parties. Show good. Besides, trained officers were by his side. The ship looked as bad on the inside as it did on the outside. It confirmed the Griffin was a non-combatant. Hardy little ship you have here, Captain. To have survived the Zontax methods. Counts our blessings. This is engineering. Engineering, for its part, better in shape. Torch marks, blood of multiple colors, and sparking consoles remained from attempts to repair. Enough to keep the crew out of immediate danger. The room also held the most beautiful being he had ever laid eyes on. This is my chief engineer, Lieutenant Commander Eleanor McCoy. Commander McCoy, this is Commander Duvek, and our Romulan guest. Green eyes stared back at him with the same surprise that followed him. Hair that resembled fire itself framed a toned and scarred face. How brilliant that hair must look, clean and shining in the star's rays. Boy, compose yourself, gave a polite nod. Commander. Angier's ears perked up. An unfamiliar Terran, since to begin with, this one he had not heard yet. It had a pleasant purr to it. He returned the nod. Commander. How are things here? Yvette asked, not much noticing the change in the Romulan's demeanor, although one of the sub-Centurions eyed their commander. Within that hour, Romulans began towing the Griffin. Within the hour following, the crew had gotten far more tense. Those tensions not stopped rising. Eleanor worried it would come to a blow. It already needed to break up standoffs before fights. It was not all between the crew and the Romulans, between Vulcans and non-Vulcan members. The Reeve was as visibly agitated as a Vulcan could be, finding the revealed relationships between Vulcans and Romulans distasteful. A reminder of Vulcan's old ways, the less than veiled accusations some of the fellow crewmates through his and other Vulcan wings not helping. However, he remained stoic and solvable. Denal tried to make friendly chatter with the Romulans, though they were not much up to engaging with non-Romulans. Laws seemed on the verge of a panic attack after hearing their fate. All of it fed high-strung emotion. Eleanor tried to work on the spread discreetly, while Romulans still occupied engineering. As far as they were concerned, she was trying to prevent data corruption. However, it was doubtful it would take long for them to realize the opposite should they look close enough. It did not help the commander's team intent on hovering near her. Is red hair common on Terra? question caught her off guard. Beck's general attitude was not what she expected. Pardon? Your hair. Such vivid red is not known on Romulus. Is it common on your planet? Vivek explained, patiently and openly curious. Ah, it's not the most common color, no. Actually, the rarest on Earth. The reddish hair tends to run in my family. I believe it suits you well. Blessing of fire, if you will. Thank you kindly. She was not particularly sure how to respond to that. Being told she had a fiery personality was not unknown to her, nor were the red jokes that came not always meant with ill intent, but this was the first time it had been called a blessing of a higher power. Do Romulans worship fire or something of the sort? Vivek chuckled. In a sense, you revere the elements of the universe: fire, earth, water, air, and the element that sees them. They act more as guides, or to call upon. Some resonate with elements more than others. The idea was not foreign to Eleanor. Humanity shared similar beliefs throughout its history. But this was the first time she heard of an element. The word I mispronounced once again. Not that she expected to be a spiritual belief held by the Romulans.
It's just arch element.
Arch element, okay. Yes. I always read something, and it's just like, ah, thank God I don't have to read that word again. And it comes to me again. This is not just in this one, like things in general. Whenever I'm just like, I don't want to encounter this again, I always encounter. So, are the elements the main spirituality among Romulus? One of the more prominent ones, not the only one. There is Dara, raptor goddess who represents endless expanse of the universe, and for our Vivek pause, working his jaw. Eleonora swore she could hear fangs grinding together. Afterlife. Pleasant one, to be sure. This Fortivore seems to be more than an afterlife. Eleonora raised an eyebrow. It is also a philosophy of sorts, Vivek confirmed, taking a moment to observe the other Romulans in the room and some of the Vulcans. A large part of Romulan pride and arrogance, so to speak, and our tension with the Vulcans. I see. She didn't push, but her curiosity burned. Vivek appeared to pick up on his appreciative but apologetic. Perhaps at a better time. Might I ask about Terran belief? Only fair. We've got a lot of them, so I can't cover them all. Do humans have beliefs similar to ours? A few. There are beliefs that use the elements as guides as y'all do. Not as popular, however. Can't say I've ever met one of those people personally either. Not to her knowledge, anyways. Nor have I heard of an arch element until now. Vivek seemed oddly mystified by that. Even then, we are more similar than we think. What are your more dominant? Do you hold up to any of them? I can't quite give you the details on all of them, but I can try to explain. Personally, I'm what you call agnostic. They did not remain on the topic for long. Eleanor was on Celtic religion before Yvette called the senior staff to the briefing room. Andrea gave the request a suspicious look, simply agreed to pick up on the conversation later. Eleanor dismissed herself after putting Sharif in charge. The entire meeting was draining. Captain Yvette felt less optimistic about the situation by the hour. The Near's attitude and the spread taking longer than anticipated, plus growing uncertainty about its safety did not help. None of them were entirely trustful of the Romulan sincerity, even Eleonora. Very trust was all they had. It waned in Yvette, the Near, and even the CMO by the hour. The Zindi had less experience with the Romulans, thus Dahl remained neutral. For Eleanor, she silently admitted Yvette had grown on her. made her more hopeful. He was so open, willing to share cultures. Surely a commander being so was a good sign. Yet, even she noticed. Yet, even she noticed did not appear the norm. His crew was arrogant. A lot of them acted xenophobic toward the Griffin crew, as the Griffin crew did toward them. Her worries grew as she and Duvek had to break up a budding fight. That is quite enough, Lieutenant. As to you, Unlung. Commander, I know. Pulled them away, leveling them with a hard gaze. There are repairs to be done and lives at stake. Now is not the time for fights, understood? Yes, sir. Good. Now get back to your station. Try starting another fight with the Romulans, and I'll have you confined to your quarters. Understood, sir. Vivek sent the villain away by the time she looked back. I apologize for her behavior. Commander, none of us have much experience with Starfleet beyond propaganda. On our side, yes, that made sense, and well, same on our side. Large war behind us. It is only expected. I'm surprised by your openness. Call it naivety, but I like to have a cautious hope. Haven't exactly encountered your kind for a while now, and the McCoys don't exactly have the same prejudices as the Styles. Oh, I don't think it's particularly naive. You will find more than few Romulans who share that sentiment. He smiled, eyes shining with uncertain hope. Perhaps this encounter will prove as much to both our governments. He returned the smile, though more uneasy. That would be a slow process, one riddled with resistance. Still, she wished for it to be true. Unfortunately, fate was not so kind. Tensions began overflowing. More than a few crewmates on both ends started fights. What was worse, the spread was still uncertain, but it would have to do if Eleonora wanted to prevent the captain from ordering self-destruction. Angier could only do so much to keep things under wraps. The way the Griffin's crew was resisting, he feared he would not be able to justify keeping them safe, to be returned under the Romulan protocol. Especially not with the commanding officers borderline encouraging this resistance. First Officer Sneer rarely veiled his hostilities toward the Romulans. Yvette's civility was merely a guise. Coy, while more open, seemed to be hiding something that could put her crew in danger. It was she who Pengier feared hurting the most. Yathan did not approve of his sympathies, calling it dangerous. His brother especially did not approve of the affection he showed toward the chief engineer. You are a fool. You know this would only end in tragedy, Yathan said, hiss in his words. You risk too much here. Your own life especially. We have a chance for peace. Should we not take it? Allow our children to have a future where they are not in fear of living up. I suggest caution in your next words, Denim. Walls have ears, chipped walls especially. I am your commander here, and I am your advisor. Do not try pulling rank. This is foolish, and you know it. Is this truly about peace, or your infatuation with the redhead? Harris had been quietly sitting in the room up to that point, nervously watching the exchange. It was not the first time the brothers fought, and not be the last. Times like these, Harris wondered if having them together was a good idea. But still, despite Pengier's oddly compassionate demeanor, he was a commander for a reason. Coldness, Harris fancied he'd once seen pinned down by the wild cry flashed in Pangier's ear. Yathan was not deterred. You have allowed your emotions to get in the way of the mission. Busy trying to impress an Earth woman. You are not just a fool, but a reckless one to boot. You dare. Enough, Harris shouted. The last thing he needed was these two at each other's throats, with possibly Taranas to follow. Accusations, arguing. What is this going to solve? The airship is tense. Who is to blame them? They have little reason to trust us, nor us them. We both hide something from the other, and the other can tell. That gets to us all. With a sigh, Kara stood. You were sure he looked as tired as he felt. I desire an end to this conflict as much as you do, Commander, but I cannot deny the outcome looks grim if the tensions are not dispelled. I'm not certain they can be. Not fully. There's still time, but something more will be needed. Angier had to relent. His sub-commander made a good point, and though he loathed to admit it, so did his brother. I severely doubt they would take a warning kindly. No, their first officer in particular would somehow take it as proof that we lie about their safety. Stars moved slowly outside his ready room's window. They were going the fastest they could with a ship in tow. Regardless, Romulus was less than a day away. Then the reports on the Griffin's crew would determine everyone's fate. At the end of the day, he could not promise anything, only repeat protocol. When he knew Toran would follow, but the rest of the Senate was. It did not matter how much specific crew members behaved. Their whole, if the whole were cast in a bad light, Harrison then quietly spoke while Pierre weighed his options. Just as he felt a conclusion making itself known, the communicator beeped. Commander Juvik, we have a problem. The humans have just tried mass wiping their databanks. Now they try to destroy the ship. To say the spread did not go well would be like saying fish liked water. A massive understatement. Eleonora had tried working out the kinks of the spread as fast as well as she could now that Duvek was no longer watching her. Still, not enough. Her team just barely managed to stop it from corrupting life support. It wasn't a total failure. Much of the important data now out of Romulan reach. Merely not enough for Senior and Yvitte's taste. On top of that, the Romulans found out self-destruct was ordered. Also failed. The spread corrupted the self-destruct system. Romulan resistance would prevent them from forcing one manually. Assuming the spread did not corrupt, and beyond that. Tensions had hit their peak. There was no salvaging this. Was throwing away so many lives when faced with the prospect of returning home safely worth your distrust? Rex pressed into a thin line. He stopped pacing to stare down Yvette. You had our word. Now I cannot assure that safe passage. What's more, this will serve to taint many's views of the Federation further. Flash of regret graced Yvette's features only for a brief moment. He held Yvette. Why should we have taken your word? Even if you were honest, would not allow you any data that put the United Federation of Planets at risk. Yvette stepped forward. Are secrets really more important than lives? And allowing your crew to see the stars of their homes again? Near scoffed, baring his teeth, as if he wouldn't have used it against us. Lenore was not sure Defect's eyes could get any colder. His voice was low, yet venomous. Oh, but they will certainly use this against you. He continued pacing, slowly walking to where Eleanor stood. Perhaps I should have been more observant. But your failed attempt to corrupt your data is why we're all still standing. Stopped in front of her, coldness lessening. Some of you were cooperative. That may save a few lives, but doubtful will you be allowed to return home. At least some of the crew still has a chance to live a life. That's something. Eleanor, back aside. He had more time on the spread. No point in dwelling it. This was the best outcome they could hope for now. Anything more, they might as well be dead. High Defect's advisory Centurion, glaring her down. Whatever her problem with her was, besides the spread, she could not tell. Sub-commander seemed to share Duvek's room, although more somber. Near, he warned. Upon hearing another remark begin to fall, Near turned his glare to her. He held, silently arguing to not make it worse. Insulting remarks will get you nowhere, Gretchen, Duvek said, clearly done with Sinir's attitude. A low growl, quiet but there, was his only response. Duvek dismissed them not long after, under watch and almost nearly confined to their quarters. Griffin belonged to the Romulans.
Nice.
Oh, I love how everything goes to shit.
Yeah, we always love that.
Yep.
Yeah. They
Mhm.
were doing so well, and then tensions became high again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were doing so well. And then the
There's-
Romulans came early.
Yeah, there was some romance going on.
Yep. I loved writing Pangier's knitting. Like, he is such a dork.
Nice.
Okay. I am going to refill my water and then I will be back. And I'm also going to give a bit of context about Teothan and Gerdas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Live commentary.
And I can only speak for the rest of the night. I'm just kidding.
You earned a break.
I'm kidding. I don't know how you and Honey and Zach have survived this long. I only read one Chow Channel, all like, good night.
You know what? I have a question. Do you talk a lot at your job?
I do. I try not to. It's
Okay,
retail. I have to. And I have coworkers.
Yeah. Coworkers. Yay. Oh. But I actually do love my coworkers.
Oh,
I talk a lot.
I like mine too.
Perhaps it takes practice. Practice, as they say, with a rolling of the R. Ooh, nice.
R R R
Got it.
R.
I am honestly really glad y'all are liking the pacing and stuff.
Yeah, it's
I
really
really-
good.
Also, so Kyrus and Teothan are canonical characters. They are the commander and centurion that appears in the Balance of Terror episode in the original series. They are not named, however. These names are actually from the trading card game.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I just decided I'm using these. And yeah. So that's context with those two. So if y'all ever watch the original series and you get the Balance of Terror, you'll get to see them.
That's cool.
They'll be like, hey, that's the one from Stag's Fic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I guess if there's nothing more to say, chapter 3.
Chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's cool.
Alright. A deal is made. Will it be worth it? And chapter 3 is titled A Griffin in the House of Shade, because I put Griffin in all these chapter titles, and Shade is what Duvek stands for. Anyways, it's actually a Vulcan word. I will give context to that later. Anyways, you want me to what? It had not been but 20 minutes after being dismissed to her quarters that Pangier appeared at her door. She was not particularly pleased to see him, more wary, but whatever he needed was urgent. It was about the crew, keeping them safe. He had an offer believed to help, so, naturally, she listened. A marriage proposal was far from her list of expected solutions. Pangier fidgeted before speaking up again. I asked if you would. No, I heard you the first time. I just. How exactly is this supposed to help? For one, it will guarantee your safety. Few would dare harm a commander's mate, much less one of an esteemed house as mine. For two, a commanding officer agreeing to such an arrangement, especially in this situation, would cast a more agreeable would cast the more agreeable members in a favorable light. Not entirely positive, but fair. If a commanding officer is willing to see past hostilities, what does that say of their subordinates? Eleonora crossed her arms, able to see some of the logic. Why exactly can't you just let us go again? Paranoia, he sighed. It would be a show of weakness for some, a reckless move for others. You saw how you saw too much for their liking, and for many, particularly our praetor, this situation would justify war. Our praetor would also be enraged at our failure to secure a Federation vessel. Your praetor doesn't sound particularly pleasant. No, she is a mad woman by all accounts, but our portion is obedience, or death, or a fate far, far worse. He picked at the false claws of his gloves, resisting the urge to bite them, a habit his brothers often chastised him for. Taking in the belongings decorating in Eleanor's room, Pangier felt his mood sink further. Things he assumed were reminders of home, others' personal taste. Curiosity about her home nagged at him. The family photo stabbed him in the heart. Eleonora followed his gaze and carefully steadied her breathing. I'm never going to see them again, am I? She already knew the answer. No, I don't. Just how long do we have before we reach Romulus? 16 hours. 16 hours until our fates are decided for us. I suppose it was sealed anyways. The photo was a hollow photo, a short, looping snapshot of the moment. All of them laughing, smiling, her father regarding them all fondly, proudly. Her throat burned. She refused to cry in front of Pangier, but her body shook in protest. For his part, he stayed silent, staring elsewhere. I can't just let them die if I have a choice, but how long would you allow me to consider your offer? Preferably 6 to 10 hours. I am aware that that is little, but the Senate will need time to comprehend it. My brother especially. Horrid will not be pleased. He licked his lips. I have witnessed how the Senate can be. It is best we are not caught in its chaos. Eleanor sighed, for the first time silently cursing the Zondak. These were terrible circumstances, that much was obvious. This option, while not great, beat everyone getting killed. What exactly will happen to the crew? I will not deny that some will be executed. I can do little there. But my family holds sway. We can try to secure a life on Romulus for the others. However, I cannot guarantee the best outcome for all. Not very comforting. No, I wish I could do more. She pressed her lips together, the weighing in her mind almost dizzying. Nails raked. No, nails risked puncturing holes in her uniform. Nothing felt right. Different paths that could come from the steel. I will leave you to consider. I must see to it that my crew does not harm anyone or the ship. Call for me when you make a decision. He hesitated by the door, casting a glance back before finally leaving. The silence was heavy. Eleonora collapsed onto her bed, once more staring down at the hollow photo. She could once more staring down at the hollow photo. She could deny her tears no longer. It did not take long for her to decide, merely 2 hours. Uncertainty was not promising, but if choosing to live paves the way for hope, was it not the better option? What good could they do dead? Perhaps it was foolish. Pangaea told her enough about how difficult Romulus's government was, but even small, slow progress was progress. If she came to regret this, so be it. Are you certain you wish to go through with this? Pangier's gaze was hard, but though not cold, the fidgeting absent. Wouldn't have called you otherwise. I can't let these people die. Life on Romulus is not easy. It it can still make something out of a rough life. Being dead won't help anyone. A small smile briefly graced his features. I suppose so. Exhaling, he stood straighter. I am relieved. There was little point in so much death, and trailed off, seeming fascinated by his hands. A bit of green dusted his face. I admire your fire in this situation. It will go a long way. Eleanor crossed her arms again. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you'd been flirting with me this whole time. The green deepened. I won't deny
You,
it,
you
but I.
didn't say. Sorry.
But I could not confess to anything, as I knew you would have preferred to return home as I would. I only wish the circumstances were different. If only. Whether she could have dated him under better conditions, whether she would have dated him under better conditions, well, it did not matter now, did it? What happens now? Now I need you to join me. We are both required to make this official, to inform our crews in the Senate. I will not let harm befall you, and I'll make sure none stab you in the back either. Lead the way. The hours following were beyond tiring. Eleonora felt drained. First, the look she got after making that deal. The CMO and Dalla were barely understanding. Sinir and Yvette were expectedly pissed. Most of the crew would never hear the whole story. The Romulans were. Many were mocking, others curious. Pangier made sure the more unpleasant ones kept quiet. Very few understood. Cyrus and Teothan, as she would come to know their names, were among them. Cyrus was pleasant. Teothan was cool at best. Granted, he seemed more concerned with his brother's safety. Kiras and Pangier brought her up on what she needed to know, at least what they could in that time. Much of the Griffin crew were also sent needed information. None of it made the hearing any less stressful. She would likely be seen as a traitor to the crew for a long time. Words near directed at her. It hurt. She knew the risk. She doubt. She doubted any sleep would come that night. During the hearing, she caught the eye of a senator. I just skipped to that. Okay. During the hearing, she caught the eye of a senator with similar striking blue eyes as Pangier and Theothan. His expression near unreadable, but half irritated. The brothers, too, locked eyes with him on multiple occasions. Did they know him? It did not matter. She merely wanted this to end. A wave of calm coursed through her, willing her to relax. Pangier, Pangier's hand, now free of the talon gloves, rested on her upper back, trying to assure her this trial would conclude shortly. She tried to mentally lean into the sensation before anxiety completely consumed her. The Dumek, ma- the Duvek Manor was large, no doubt many rooms and halls to get lost in, ghost of expectations thickening the air, as if things weren't already overwhelming. Her weariness must have shown as Pangier grabbed her hand, that strange soothing sensation washing over her once more. Come, I will show. I'm sure you wish to rest now. Your personal items will be waiting when you wake. The room the room was spacious. A large bed sat in the middle, made and clean. The room itself carefully maintained, likely thanks to the servants running around. A few drawers were pushed up against the walls, decorated with items Eleanor's tired brain did not allow her to take in. Pendiera instructed the following servant to put her bags in the walk-in closet. Oh boy. Excuse me. Uh, yes. Naru is Kathy Utea. I am not good at pronouncing this language. I will note there are translation notes at the bottom if y'all need those to follow along. Actually, hold on, let me go. I'm gonna go copy paste those right now. Give me a second. Alright, now back up to where I was. Aren't you glad I took this on?
Very much so.
It's supposed to. I read something from Don Deanna that this is supposed to be like a mix between Welsh and Latin, so there's that. Anyways, the servant bowed and left. This is where you will sleep. It was my room, now ours. I will ensure you are not bothered while you rest. I do have to leave, however, so don't be afraid to call on one of the servants should you need something. Right. Yet more to adjust to. I suppose you still have the griffin to deal with. Unfortunately, yes. I have to oversee some of it. She didn't want to ask which parts. She didn't have to ask which parts. Did not want to. She wanted him to leave. He shifted almost knowingly. I must go now. Rest well. He hesitated, wanting to say more, but thought better of it. Bowing, he left Eleonora alone. A breath escaped her, feeling heavy. Everything felt heavy. Shaking, she grasped the pillars of the bed, barely getting her shoes off before collapsing onto it, not a care about her uniform. The sheets vaguely smelt of him, a continuing reminder. She'd likely never know what happened to the crew, only hope. And her family would never know what happened to her. For the second time that week, she mourned. Second. The house was quiet, the windows dark. Eleanor was not sure when she fell asleep, but her head ached. Weariness still weighed heavy. Slow, she slid off the bed, nearly tripping over her shoes as she fumbled through the dark. Shit. Lights! Silence. Right, didn't understand her. It was not pitch black. Light from one or both moons trickled through the dim window, and a faintly glowing statue of some Romulan animal made it distinctly easy to adjust to the dark. Decently easy to adjust to the dark. 3 doors. The closet and main door already known. The other must be the bathroom. Thankfully, the door both had Thankfully, the door had both sensors and a backup switch, and the third door was, in fact, a bathroom. The vanity lights were active, soft enough to see but not strain, enough to see herself. Hair barely washed mimicked a bird's nest. Eyes showed not but exhaustion and loss. Streaking stains of spilt tears that did not touch on the uniform she fell asleep in. She looked as horrible as she felt. Eleonora contemplated going back to bed. Even then, it would do little good to ruin her uniform further, as if that was any use to her now. Regardless, it was still dirtied from the Zontac incident. Maybe she could request to keep it as a memory. Memory. The closet did not have sensors, but the switch was familiar. He even had a lock. A tad strange. For safety? matter. The internal lights were useful, fortunately set to 50%, your illuminating some of Pangier's room without blinding her. Her bags were sat near the door. There were only two: clothes, toiletries, and the few personal items she took from the Griffin. Let's hope the temperature settings into the shower aren't too confusing. Civilian oath Civilian Earth clothes might not be the most suited for wandering a Romulan manor, but they were certainly better than a bloodied and charred uniform, or even the black undershirt. And she did not exactly feel comfortable wearing one of Pangeira's many blue robes. Whatever the case, it was presentable, if anyone was even up at this hour. There were night lights along the hall, guiding, but Eleonora was not quite sure where she even wanted to go. The living area or the kitchen, wherever they were. Merely find someone, likely a servant. Something pressed against her leg. She swore, about jumping out of her skin. Then the thing skittered back. Curious orange eyes blinked at her. The creature resembled a giant lizard, albeit one with the stature of a bulldog. Just a pet, she assumed, hoped. Startled me there. An awkward chuckle left her. The lizard dog thing tilted its head and slowly moved towards her again. A forked tongue flicked out. Holding still, Eleonora tried to determine more about the creature. With barely any light, she couldn't tell if it was green or blue. It appeared to have spines along its back, a head crest, and a long tail, and a bit like a chameleon and an iguana. More so, it seemed friendly, once it was satisfied with its investigation. Just making sure I was no threat, weren't ya? She held out a hand, to which the creature flicked its tongue at, then pressed its snout into the palm. Eleonora smiled, scratching under its chin. Just like our dogs. Are you Pangiers or Teothans? Its head tilted at the names, almost expectantly. I suppose I'll figure that out later. Do you know where the living room or the kitchen is? Another blink. Right, you probably understand me less than the computers. With a sigh, she stood. I just need to. A familiar, painful growl interrupted her, reminding her of the time it had been since she last ate. That she even had an appetite was surprising. The lizard dog perked up. It chuffed, pattering ahead, only to look back at her if to ask if she was following. Well, was one way to figure out where to go. Alright, lead the way, I guess. She vaguely recalled the stairs they descended. Only then she wondered how many floors the manor had. At least the bedrooms were on the second floor. The lizard dog led her to the dining room. A faint light and voices leaked out of a door on the other end. Were some of the servants awake? The lizard dog poked the door open, lowly groaning an announcement. Ah, Rayana. The servant froze, seeing Eleonora. He fumbled for words. Oh, er, pensionen neer. Neer, Eleonora neer. Dai. I don't speak Romulan. Red doch erke hi rien varur. Alterra I fly, no, fly here, diviv, boy. The second servant snapped at the first, and smiled at her. Very sorry, we are not, used to humans, she said, struggling with the words. I am Elehi. This is Mael, my twin. You are Eleonora, yes? The twins were nearly identical in all but gender, both with light brown hair in bowl cut style. Mayo's came down to about his jaw, while Elahi's was about halfway down her neck, and dark brown eyes. That's right, she nodded, questioning if the two were cooks. A pleasure. The pleasure is ours, Mayo bowed, Elahi following suit. We see Ray found you. She was no trouble, other than giving me a bit of a scare, not at all. Eleonora was disquieted by the bows, but chose to ignore it for the time. Help me find the kitchen? That is good. She know the manner. Mayo smiled. You require something? Food? Drink? I don't really. Her stomach cut off her lie before it could come. Her face warmed. Well, I might be a bit hungry. It has been a while since. She trailed off. The twins nodded. We are aware. Would you like anything Would you like anything in specific? Well, I ain't exactly familiar with Romulan cuisine. Got any recommendations? The twins shared a glance, quickly whispering in Rihan before nodding. Seafood? Is it to your liking? Eleonora nodded after slowly tasting the seafood soup. It was creamy, consisting of mostly shellfish. This is lovely, thank you. She smiled small at the twins, who watched from the kitchen door. They bowed, relief. Our pleasure. They remained standing. After a few more bites, Eleonora felt discomforted by their watching. Are y'all just gonna stand there, or do y'all want to sit? Elihi and Mio shared a confused look. Would you like us to join you? It beats y'all just standing there and staring at me. Besides, some company is nice. Perhaps y'all can tell me a thing or two about this house? Yes, of course. We will tell all we know. Would you like specific start? I was trying to write a broken English dialogue, so I apologize if some of it's a bit distasteful. Like I was trying my best there. They sat across from her, eager to please. She realized how young they looked, even for Romulans. They weren't children, but she expected they were at least young adults. How long had they worked for the Duvecs? She decided to hold the question until further in. Who all lives here? Surely it ain't just Pangier, Teothan, and yourselves. Oh no, there are more, if you count servants. Why wouldn't I? Few of us live here, he explained. Miel and I do. Rue Hifrin Hifaf Torin took us in long ago. Rue Hifrin Torin is the oldest of the brothers. He owns the. Hold on. I forgot who just said this. Haru Hifrin is the oldest. Haru Hifrin Torin is the oldest of the brothers. He owns the Hihar, or house, if I am correct. House clans. Pendier had managed to bring her up to speed on that much. I believe so. Where is Ru Hifrin exactly? She stumbled with the word, unsure what it even meant. He is still with the Senate, to our knowledge. Maybe some time before he returns. Is he a senator? I assume the other two are still there too? We believe so. It been hours since last update. Eleonora chewed at her lip, trying not to dwell on what was happening. She turned to other matters. Do the brothers have any other family? They are a few remaining, at least here. Teres lives away from the manor and has little contact. We don't know why. The Duduvik The Duvek family is getting smaller, but it does not trouble them much. It may still grow. An odd contrast to the McCoy family. It caused a thought to strike her. Did Pangier want kids? The thought of raising children had crossed her mind in the past. It enticed her, though it never felt urgent. Besides, few of any gender really struck her fancy. Could Romulans and humans even have children? Did she even want to try? She barely even wanted to be around Pangier at the moment. She doubted he would force her, thankfully, but the question remained. Something must have shown, as Elahi and Mael frowned and concerned. She inhaled, mentally shaking away the thoughts. How many other servants are here? How many other servants are here currently? Us and 5 others. Why? Have we offended you? No, no, just curious is all. Y'all have been wonderful. Y'all have been wonderful so far, she assured, to which they gave relieved grins. Y'all said Torin took in long ago. How long have y'all been here, if you don't mind me asking? Elahi and Miel were once street rats, taken in after Torin caught them digging through someone's garbage. They weren't sure why, only that it was best case scenario. High-ranking Romulans normally did not take kindly to even their garbage being stolen. Most servants of the Duvek house were either from smaller house clans under Duvek's protections, looking for favor, or generally from the province Torin controlled as senator. Elahi and Mael fell under the last. Fru Torin is Torin is fair, irritable, protective. We feel safe. Help me change, Elahi piped up, gesturing to her chest. Eleonora blinked. Change? You mean like Mael and I were once completely identical. Now I am correct. Ah, I see. Eleonora nodded with a smile. Nice of him to help you. Speaking with the twins, learning more about the house of Romulus made Eleanor relax further. Concerns lingered, but she was more prepared. The twins' knowledge of the house, while helpful, was limited. They encouraged asking Torin, Teothan, and Pangiera, more so recommended Torin for it in Romulus. Water? Eleonora followed the twins as they gave a tour of the house, barring off-limit areas. She was half tempted to ask for a map. Apparently, someone in the family had an affinity for portraits. Almost every family member, past and present, had at least one, even for Rayer and some of the servants. 3 portraits stood out to her, Pangier's and Teothan's, and the senator from the trials who caught her eye, Torin. Same piercing blue eyes, same blue robes, same eagle-headed staff. She could see how he was head of house. He had an intimidating air. Somehow what was learned added to it. The Duvek's house brand, a giant winged eye that stared down upon all. Chills ran up Eleanor's spine. Could she even live up to this house? The tour was cut short upon noticing how the house overwhelmed Eleonora. They returned to the living area. The twins suggested a word game, trading Ryan and English words. Ryan laid by Eleanor's side. The Setlith took her to her quite well. Rhaegar was also the brothers, though tended to favor Torin, according to Mael. Equally as protective of the house. Eleonora absent-mindedly stroked Rhiannon's scales, giggling lightly at a joke and accompanying face Elahi made. The door to the manor opened. The twins jumped up as the person announced their return. Haru Viantorin was all Elahi needed to say for Eleanor to stand. He's back already? Eleonora followed the twins and ran to the foyer. Eleonora, oh, Torin's eyes immediately locked with hers, a similar, near unreadable expression on his face as he approached, taking in her appearance. She couldn't help but stand straighter, an odd bit of resolution washing over her despite her nerves. You are the human my brother asked to wed. Eleanor McCoy, was it? That's right. You must be Torin, if I'm not mistaken. That is correct. He cast a glance towards Mael and Leahy, who stood in respectful silence, then to Rhea, who perked up at the brief attention. You've been becoming accustomed to the manor, then. It was not a question, still she nodded. A beat of silence passed, both observed each other. What Torin was looking for exactly she did not know. She used the moment to take in more of his appearance. A scar ran down the left side of his ridges, ending just before the upper tip of his eyebrow. He held his staff to his left as well, and seemed to put weight on his right leg. His robes were the same from the portrait, blue with white accents around the hanging sleeves and from the collar to where the robe ended at his knees, though it tailed halfway down his calves. A wide white belt sat snugly around his middle, a seemingly pale black turtleneck and plain white pants shone underneath. Certainly gave him a regal air. Eleanor couldn't say much about her own outfit. Plain brown pants, burgundy shirt with a brown coat over top. Casual, but presentable. Cora nodded to himself, then dismissed the twins. He beckoned her to follow. Come. Much needs discussing. It is better we do so privately. Lead the way. Torin's office was not far from the foyer. Actually, you know what? Hey, Hamlet. Would you like to read the rest of this chapter?
The omelet, yes. Okay, we're at the foyer? Wait, where are we at?
Torin's office was not far from the foyer.
Let's see. Where are we? Oh, I lost my spot. Give me a moment. There we go. Torrance office was not far off from the foyer, merely on the second floor as with the bedrooms. Given the limp, no doubt it was for convenience. The office itself was rather spacious, tidily kept. Combination shelf drawers covered the back wall. Two more were pushed against the side walls. Reciting on the shelves were majorly books and pads, though other objects decorated their surfaces. A few hollow photos and portraits hung on the walls, along with what Eleonora assumed were traditional Romulan melee weapons. Torin gestured to a seat in front of his desk. Have a seat. She sat down, watching him do the same. I have many questions for you, as I'm certain you do for me. She nodded, straight to the point then. Yes, go on. I will not dawdle. Hearing my brother plan to wed a human was shock enough. I'm aware of your deal. I want to ensure you understand it. I marry Pangair in hopes of ensuring the crew's safety, with the knowledge none of us are returning to the Federation. That was the basis of it, anyway. Understand there is little for a human to gain on Romulus, especially one of your alignment. Which brings me to another point. He sat up, hands folded in front of him. You are not of the Federation, nor Starfleet. As of this day moving forward, you are of the Romulan Star Empire, of the Duvek House. Whatever your feelings on the matter, whatever you decide to do, should be for the Empire and this house. Despite knowing well this was fact, the terms of the deal, with Pangaea even insinuating such, it did not ease the sting of those words. The blunt way Torin laid them out. Eleanor's jaw set. Still, she could not get angry. Not there, especially not at Torin. Stiffly, she nodded. I understand. I do not tell you this out of coldness, he said, taking on a softer tone, though not by much. There are many who would wish to do you harm for your background. Trying to remain attached to your Starfleet pride will only invite such, both to you and us. My house's and position's protections only extend so far. Understand as well, I will do whatever necessary to protect my family. She swallowed, letting her shoulders drop. I agreed to this arrangement to save lives. I won't put Pangaea's or anyone here's at risk. Do I have your word? Yes. Good. Satisfied, Torin leaned back, moving his hands to his lap. Now, we have much to do. For one, we will require more appropriate attire. More appropriate, he says. Give me one moment. I have to change something. I also have to change into appropriate attire and make sure that little, my poor, innocent little headset doesn't shut off. Oh, I'm gonna just do that. There we go. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Are they going to be blue too? Fell out before she could think. Getting snarky was not what she wanted to do at that moment. Expectedly, Torin grinned. I take it you noticed. Yes, your robes will be blue. It is the family color. Has it always been that way? Mostly. There were some deviations from Duvek's past. Still, blue was one of the more consistent things in my house clan's history. It cannot be blamed. It is rather soothing on the eyes. That it was. Eleanor supposed this was not the first time she had heard of or encountered those with a family color of sorts. Few from Earth's past, a handful of alien species. One in particular was strict about it. You will not always have to wear blue robes. There will be situations that call for different. They will merely make up most of your wardrobe, for most occasions. She cannot say she was fond of the stricter dress code, including casual. Yes, not what you're used to, I know, but you will have to adapt. She could adapt to it, yes, but it was not pleasant to lose that freedom. And what exactly will happen to what I did bring? She gestured to herself. Torn sighed deeply, sitting straighter. You may keep them, including your old uniform, if you so wish. He made a face, not caring for the thought of a Starfleet uniform residing in his home. But you will not wear them, cannot wear them. Sticking out in such a manner, it would invite dangers. In fact, I insist your old uniform remain completely hidden if you do keep it. It was not an unreasonable request. If Romulus could be that dangerous, where an old uniform poses the risk of accusations, or even simple human clothes carried whispers of treason. If things are that paranoid, she muttered, not intending to think out loud. Unfortunately, Torrin responded, and worse things beyond that. Caution is needed in these times, Eleonora. Well, not the first time he spoke her name, the stern, sympathetic way he said it. He was not reveling in this any more than she was. Slowly she breathed in, needing to ask, Torrin, do you know what will have happened to the rest of the crew? Some have been given the committee's blessing to live on Romulus, others on core worlds, including Remus. Life will be harsh, hellish on Remus, especially. He paused, grinding his fangs, allowing the information to sink in while considering the rest. Many have been sentenced to, even choosing, death. Your captain and first officer among those sentenced for their participation in encouraging resistance and attempt to destroy the Griffin. Pangaea will carry out theirs among others. Even choosing the knowledge many chose death cut Many more would likely die, if hellish meant as she thought, with uncertainties surrounding the others. All the while she got a comfortable home. It made her feel sick. All made worse knowing Pangere was going to execute them, even if it made sense, even if he might hate his role. What was done was done. She could not change their fates, not more than she had. Some might still make it. She could, oh, some might still make it. She could grasp that silver thread, no matter how uncertain. She had to live for them as well. And I need a little bit of water. I must also drink and hydrate for them as well. Thorin hummed. "Hmm. If they play their cards right, they could very well become naturalized citizens of the Empire. But they are to shed ties with old loyalties, just as you must. I'm assuming there's more to citizenship than just that. Observing our culture, learning our language. Educators will aid them. I am to teach you. Not Panier. Oh, he will help when he's around, as will Tuoth. But they have their duties to perform, off-world. They are not home as often as I. When I'm not, calloused fingers tapped on the armrest. We have our resources. If I need to drag you to the Senate with me, I shall, but I believe our servants and clan advisor will do for the majority. Possibly other family and family friends as well, depending on how they got on with Eleanor. All right, that all sounded reasonable to her. There anything else I need to know? Like this arrangement between your brother and I? How is I am to finalize it, Torrin said. He has already given me the contract you both signed. All it needs now is my blessing as head of house. That's it? No ceremony. This is not your usual arraignment, now is it? He huffed a mirthless laugh. Besides, you both made enough of a show. I am sure the stress of all that has happened is quite enough, is it not? That it was. She felt relieved it would be kept simple. Anything more would make her feel on display. Unwanted attention from judging eyes. You don't see me disagreeing there. Now, with that settled, I would like to know exactly what you've been told about Romulus thus far, so that I can fill in the rest. Torrin was, by all accounts, intimidating at first glance, carrying with him an air of pride and seriousness, not to mention the staff of his. Eleonora had no doubt he had thwacked people with it before and had no qualms doing so again. Past that demeanor was someone who cared deeply about family and was all too aware of the dangers posed by their society. He wasn't unpleasant to talk with. He was thorough in explaining Romulus to her, equally so in explaining his family. She found herself following him down the same hall with all the portraits, listening to his tales about each one. Apparently she, too, was to get one. If it were not for the fact these portraits were traditionally done, she might have felt less apprehensive. But she could tell this was not a topic up for argument. It was not long before Torrin noticed the exhaustion creeping back in and suggested she get proper rest. She didn't argue with that either. 2 days passed since the discussion with Torrin. 2 days of preparing for life on Romulus. 2 very tiring days. Eleanor was grateful for Torrin's help. He was patient with her, although stern in some regards, ensuring she could live relatively safe. A few new robes hung in the shared closet. One of them clung to her form. It was comfortably loose, accented with green and white. She had chosen to let her earth clothes go, including her own old uniform. It was bloodied and scorched beyond repair. The delta, engraved with her name, was all that remained of it. Torrin, though sympathetic, was pleased with that decision, claiming it was the right call. Pangere also returned that day. A servant brought him to the manor's library, where Torrin had been running Eleonora through the Romulan language. Exhaustion was etched into his face. Melancholic air surrounded him. It seemed to grow thicker upon spotting Eleonora. By the way Torrin frowned, he, too, caught on. Torrin asked Pangere something in Rihan. She heard Tuathan's name, and the questioning tone. Pangere responded, something to do with Karas. Torrin beckoned him over. Come, If you wish to help your new mate settle in, now's your chance. You can aid in this. Slowly, stiffly, Pangea approached, at first to sit across from her. Not having it, Torrens silently demanded that he sit next to her, with a point. So he did. A tense air settled between them. Eleonora tried not to show it, resisting the urge to bite her lip. Clearing his throat, he made note of the material. You are learning Han, yes? How are you taking to it? Slowly but surely. Torrens's been helping me with this the last few days. Ah, well, I'm sure he's been a very good teacher in all things Shirahan. Very. Watching them carefully, Torrens spoke up. Perks of being a senator, I'd say. She is at a steady pace, one I've no doubt will pick up, should she not be distracted, with a pointed look toward his brother, and recognition that this tense atmosphere was to be the norm. He continued the lesson. We are just going over grammar and formality. The session took longer than previous. Pangea tried to help ease Eleanor's nerves by making light jokes and attempts at encouragement, but even out of uniform, he only seemed to exacerbate the problem. This was not without Eleanor making an effort to ease up, with the knowledge of her crew that felt impossible, the close proximity not helping. On more than one occasion, Torrens considered sending his brother away. At the same time, however, he debated leaving them alone, let them deal with their emotions. Callous on the outside, but Torrens believed it would do them good. They would need to face each other eventually. He chose to end the lesson early, claiming fatigue. Eleanor made to leave after Torrens. Wait, please! She stopped, jaw set as she faced Pangea. Yes? Swallowing the urge to fidget, to look away, he took a step forward. I understand you desire away from me, and I will not keep you here long. I merely request you hear me out. Please. His eyes were pained, glassy as he spoke, a strange reflection of her own mood. It softened her only a little, still wary, always wary. All right. Slowly nodding, she gestured at him. What is it? Relief escaped him, but pain remained. I am certain Torrens has told you what my job was these past few days. I can see it. I want you to know it brought me despair to end anyone's life. To see how many chose it when they could live. I know those people were near to you, even in disagreements. None of them deserved their death, but I could do nothing, not without risk to my own family and to those who chose life. Understand, I do not expect nor request forgiveness from you. I do not expect you to force yourself around me for my sake, only for yours when necessary. I offered that deal to save people, as I have seen far too many innocents die for Romulus's arrogance. I do not delight in my position, but I wish for you to understand. Silence fell between them, heavy, slow. Eleanor realized Pangea bled as she did, even if in the slightest different way. She could not quell the roiling anger for those that died, could not quite aim it away from him, but she saw his own, tampered by grief and shame as it was, and could aim the rest where it belonged. Even with what power he had, it had limits. She could not blame him for that. And he gave them what chances he could, even with the risks. Pangea was not a cold man. She saw that from the start. With slow breaths, she took a step forward. We're both powerless in our own rights, huh? You did what you could. It was of the few ways I knew, the one with the brighter outcome, as dim as that light may be. Dim light's better than total darkness. Even I saw that. I don't regret giving my crew a chance as much as it hurts to see many of them die. And I can't go blaming you for your government's biases. Still, it's... She trailed off. Pangea nodded, knowing without the rest. Believe me, Believe me, I feel I will never wash the blood off my hands. It is merely something more to live with. Bloodiness she felt she shared. The executions, are they complete? Yes. And the methods? Disruptor. Highest setting. As swift as we could make it. Cold comfort. Eleanor prayed swift and painless. Did it matter now? It was done, yet it still burned. She allowed Pangaea to place a hand on her shoulder, that strange sensation once again flowing through her. Only this time she knew what it was. The hands of peace, as Torrin called it, inherited from the Saharian side of the family. She didn't resist it, welcomed it even. Tears began to fall easier. How much more grieving was there to do? Come, I'm sure you wish to grieve in private, Pangaea urged, and she let him guide her out of the library into their shared bedroom. He would have left her alone if not her pleas to stay. She did not wish to be alone. I am truly sorry, he whispered into her hair as she drifted off in his arms. There was no going back. She would survive for those that died. It was all she could do now.
Crying
That
face
ends
emoji.
chapter 3.
That is
The-
awesome.
Yeah.
Whew.
So
Excellent
well
chapter. Yeah. Oh, gosh, I was getting teary-eyed reading that, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Like, oh,
Yeah, that
man.
escalated quickly.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
getting married already.
Like, oh, they're getting married for, political reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the fun kind of poly.
Yeah, but then eventually it becomes romantic.
Maybe.
Pangaea's a good guy. Come on. He didn't have a choice there.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, Corey, since I noticed your confusion, basically because of some of the resistance some of the crew put up in their open hostility towards the Romulans, they
Oh, so they kind of just like chose that fate,
basically,
but you could also have just surrendered, and but then you could never leave the planet.
yeah, something like
Romulus.
Ye-
What's the planet called again?
Romulus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of that chapter. That chapter
Yeah, it's pretty
waylaid me
good.
while I was
so
trying.
good.
You
Mhm.
should be proud.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Oh my gosh. We'll definitely have to finish it next time, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has gotten even late for me on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So it must be very late for you.
It's really late
Yeah.
for Corey, especially. I think this is the
Mhm.
latest I've seen Corey.
Yeah, I've been staying up late, but I really need to go to bed now.
Yeah, me
I don't think I can
Alright.
stay anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining
Agreed.
us. I'll just have an abrupt end here. I'll check everyone. I'll put everyone's socials. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Right.